Chapter 4503. Sir, please wait for a moment. The middle-aged man was overjoyed. He quickly entered the inner room and took out a few robes. At this moment, the light golden dragon had already chosen his white robe. However, when he saw the blue and white robes, he immediately licked his lips. That was because the blue and white robes were very beautiful. They were entirely blue and white with clouds embroidered on the chest area. One of them had a pair of golden fish embroidered on the sleeves. It looked ordinary yet luxurious, and it was very suitable for the owner's status. Sir Lin, this one. The light golden dragon immediately pointed at the blue and white robe. If not for the fact that he did not dare to choose the same robe as Lin Ling, he would have already chosen the blue and white robe. Lin Ling rubbed his chin and nodded slightly. Not bad, I'll take this one. How much is it? Thank you, sir, for only 5,000 emperor crystals. The middle-aged man rubbed his hands and said, the godly soil also used emperor crystals. Of course, it was not very effective for true experts. After all, they had already cultivated with the godly spring. It was the same for Lin Ling. He did not care about emperor crystals, and was about to take out the money. I'll do it. However, the light golden dragon was very smart. He immediately took out the money first. He knew very well that Lin Ling was now a member of the Dragon Valley, and had erected the stone statue in the Dragon Valley. From a certain point of view, he was also an ancestor of the dragon tribe. At the very least, he was a respected elder of the Dragon Valley. Therefore, he did not want to miss out on this favor. Lin Ling also allowed the light golden dragon to take out the money. He just wanted to wear the blue and white robe. Isn't this the fish-swallowing sea robe? TSK, not bad. It looks very nice. Boss, I'll take it. At this moment, a few men in immortal robes walked into the shop. One of them was holding a purple gold fan. He looked at the blue and white robe and nodded with satisfaction. It's Sir Rong. The middle-aged man obviously knew the man. He showed a respectful expression and then said awkwardly, Sir Rong, this fish-swallowing sea robe has been bought by someone. Oh. The handsome man's gaze swept across the crowd and suddenly landed on the radiant golden dragon. Out of the two people in front of him, only the radiant golden dragon's aura was somewhat extraordinary. The radiant golden dragon also looked at the man with a cold expression, not saying a word. How dare you? Seeing how fearless the radiant golden dragon was, the others frowned. Don't worry, a gentleman doesn't take what others like. Boss, bring me another one. The handsome man's eyes flashed and he smiled. Young Master Rong, you should know that our store's immortal robes are one of a kind in the entire city. Therefore, it's impossible for us to take out another one. Moreover, you should also know that the tailoring of the immortal robes is done on a whim. Even if we were to ask someone else to make it, they wouldn't be able to achieve such a taste. The middle-aged man said awkwardly. As soon as he finished speaking, the handsome man's face finally turned unsightly, because he knew that as well. After all, no one wanted to wear the same clothes as others, let alone the descendants of gods like the godly earth of the broken realm. Therefore, the immortal robes of the entire city were always unique. Sir, how much are the 2 immortal robes in your hands? We'll buy them at double the price. Someone beside the handsome man sensed the latter's displeasure. He immediately looked at the radiant golden dragon and said, if you're not satisfied with the price, we'll triple the price. After you buy them, you just have to bow and apologize to young Master Rong. His voice was arrogant, as if he was rewarding Lin Ling. Hearing that, the radiant golden dragon fell silent. This also made the handsome man and the others think that the radiant golden dragon was afraid. After all, as long as one wasn't a fool, one would know that they had an extraordinary background and shouldn't be provoked. However, they didn't know that the radiant golden dragon didn't fall silent because it was afraid. It was afraid that they would ruin Lin Ling's plans. Lin Ling looked at them indifferently. With his strength, he naturally didn't have time to waste on these small fries. No need, I don't lack money. Shaking his head, Lin Ling picked up the blue and white robes and was about to leave. This was his first time in the city. Before he found Sima Ruachan, he didn't want to cause any trouble. 5 times. However, just as Lin Ling moved, a voice was heard. However, Lin Ling smiled disdainfully and ignored it. 10 times. At this moment, another voice was heard. It was young Master Rong. He seemed to be displeased. Then, seeing that Lin Ling had continued to move forward, he said again, 100 times. 100 times. Hearing that, the middle-aged man's heart pounded violently. 100 times 5,000 royal crystals? That's 500,000 royal crystals. However, this was just the beginning. Young Master Rong didn't stop until he shocked everyone. He said again, 1,000 times. Because he saw that Lin Ling had actually ignored him. And this had infuriated him. It had been a long time since he met someone who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It was just royal crystals. He had plenty. Today, he was going to get the fish-swallowing robe and make the two of them lower their heads. 1,000 times. This time, even the people around young Master Rong were shocked. 2 immortal robes for 5 million royal crystals? Young Master Rong was indeed domineering. He's crazy. The middle-aged man was trembling and his face was pale. Chapter 4504. Those people who were talking non-stop before were all mute at this moment. 50 million royal crystals? That was an astronomical figure. Young Master Rong was stunned and his face turned pale. If you think it's too little, I can give you 500 million. Don't worry, I don't have that much money. As long as you agree to it, I can afford it. Lin Ling spoke again. His tone was calm, but it was a slap to young Master Rong's face. Playing with money. Lin Ling was full of treasures. Although he was not as good as those ancient deities, he could easily crush these arrogant people. 500 million. The shop owner trembled and fell to the ground with a thud. The young men beside young Master Rong felt their legs go weak, and their faces turned pale. What a ruthless counterattack. Young Master Rong dared not speak anymore. I don't believe it. Young Master Rong had never been so humiliated in his life. He gritted his teeth and said, You must be bluffing. If you can take out 500 million royal crystals, I will kneel down on the spot. That's right, that's right. You must be bluffing. Hearing that, the others began to chime in one after another. The commotion in the shop had attracted the attention of many people who were watching from afar. However, they did not believe that Lin Ling could take out 500 million royal crystals. 500 million royal crystals was not a small amount. Moreover, an old man secretly checked Lin Ling's cultivation and found out that he was only at the martial ancestor realm. This was even more unbelievable. Whoosh! However, as soon as young Master Rong finished speaking, Lin Ling waved his right hand. Countless royal crystals floated out and floated around Lin Ling. Can I kneel down now? Lin Ling looked up and said calmly. Silence. The entire place was silent. Lin Ling really had 500 million royal crystals. Many people licked their lips excitedly and wished that they could kneel down instead of young Master Rong. 500 million royal crystals was too cheap. Only the light golden dragon smiled faintly. He knew that royal crystals were of little help to someone at Lin Ling's level. 500 million royal crystals were just a piece of cake for Lin Ling. Of course, such imperial crystals were a huge sum of money to ordinary people. Playing with money with me? I have to say, you're still too inexperienced. Kneel down and call me Grandpa. I'll give you 500 million. At this moment, Lin Ling opened his mouth again. Although his tone was calm, without a trace of excitement, it was extremely harsh to young Master Rong's ears. For a moment he didn't dare to speak. He couldn't lose face like this. Useless thing, you want to play, but you don't dare to continue. Seeing that young Master Rong didn't dare to speak, Lin Ling shook his head and left without wasting any more time. You're asking for humiliation. The radiant golden dragon sneered, and the two of them left one after the other. Do you know who he is? The two of you are not even fit to carry his shoes. However, at this moment, someone beside young Master Rong shouted coldly. You want to leave just like that? Another person also spoke up. Looking at young Master Rong again, his face was cold. Although he did not say anything, it was obvious that he would not let Lin Ling and the rest leave. Now that there were countless people watching on the street, young Master Rong could not lose face like this. Destroy your own cultivation, and we'll let you leave. Another person said sinisterly. Young Master Rong, it's young Master Rong. The people on the street were whispering to each other. Naturally, they knew about young Master Rong. They heard that he was the grandson of a great disciple of some orthodoxy, and was extremely pampered. In this city, there were only a handful of people who dared to offend him. Not even fit to carry his shoes? The radiant golden dragon continued to walk forward, but he sneered and muttered to himself, "If he's not fit to carry his shoes, then I don't know who else in this world is. In my opinion, you're not even fit to wash his feet." Of course, he didn't care. That was because Lin Ling was one of the 4 great deities of the 9 prefectures. In terms of qualifications, there were only a dozen people in the broken Holy Land who could be compared to him. However, seeing that Lin Ling didn't speak, he couldn't be bothered with him and followed Lin Ling forward. "You're courting death." Seeing that Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon were unscrupulous, young Master Rong couldn't stand it anymore and shouted coldly, "Whoosh!" Someone immediately made a move and grabbed the radiant golden dragon, wanting to cripple him. The radiant golden dragon also noticed it, but he didn't care because Lin Ling didn't say anything. He also chose to keep the peace. In his opinion, Lin Ling kept a low profile because he didn't want to cause any trouble. Naturally, he didn't dare to ruin Lin Ling's plan. You were so arrogant before, but now you don't even dare to fight back. Useless." Seeing that the radiant golden dragon chose to keep a low profile, the person who attacked sneered. However, just as the person's attack was about to reach him, Lin Ling finally stopped walking. "Forget it. Tell him who's going to carry whose shoes." In the beginning, Lin Ling didn't want to cause any trouble. However, the other party was too aggressive, so Lin Ling didn't want to keep a low profile anymore. Since keeping a low profile didn't work, then he might as well keep a high profile. He would eventually find Sima Ruochen. "I've been waiting for this for a long time." The radiant golden dragon also stopped in his tracks. He suddenly turned around and threw a punch. Dragon claws appeared and swept out in all directions. Whoosh! A gust of wind gathered, and a golden light flashed past. The person who attacked the radiant golden dragon had his head blown off. Dragon talent. "He's from the Dragon Valley." Seeing the radiant golden dragon attack, everyone was shocked. The Dragon Valley was not far from here, so they all knew about it. Bang! The radiant golden dragon didn't stop moving. He pounced on Sir Rong, clenched his dragon claws, and slapped out violently. "How dare you!" Seeing that the radiant golden dragon attacked Sir Rong, the people beside Sir Rong immediately attacked. However, the radiant golden dragon's body emitted a dazzling light, and a powerful aura burst out. The people were all sent flying, and they fell to the ground vomiting blood. Dragon Valley. Sir Rong's eyes were still trembling. He didn't expect the Dragon Valley to attack him. Although the dragon tribe was not to be trifled with, the dragon tribe was not the most terrifying existence on this side of the Kaiyuan River. The dragon tribe was no match for the Xianling hegemony and the 10 orthodoxies. This was because the Dragon Valley only had one powerhouse, and that was the dragon god. Although the other dragon gods were powerful, they were not as powerful as the Xianling hegemony. Of course, the Dragon Valley was mysterious and extraordinary. If nothing serious happened, even the godly land of destruction wouldn't dare to provoke the Dragon Valley. Bingo! The radiant golden dragon nodded coldly. "I just wanted to tell you that you haven't figured out who's going to carry whose shoes." After saying that, his dragon claws reached for Sir Rong's chest. "Stop." However, at this moment, an anxious shout was heard. Then the ground shook. In the distance, an old man in a white robe with long hair cascading down his back casually walked over on clouds. Judging from his aura, he was ethereal and formless. It was obvious that he was an extremely powerful expert. "Radiant Golden Dragon, how dare you mess around here?" Chapter 4505. However, since Lin Ling did not say anything, the light golden dragon did not let him go. It reached out and grabbed young Master Rong. "You're asking for it. If anything happens to my young Master Rong, I'll see how you're going to answer to the dragon god." The elder stopped and said angrily, "You should know that his grandfather is the first disciple of Maha-Orthodoxy. If you dare to touch him, you won't be able to walk out of the ruinous Holy Land. Even if the dragon god of the Dragon Valley is here, He won't be able to protect you. Maha-orthodoxy. The light golden dragon frowned. This guy was related to the 10 orthodoxies. Kill him. At this moment Lin Ling's cold voice was heard. What? The elder was shocked and looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. He did not know Lin Ling, but he did not expect him to order the light golden dragon. Roger. The light golden dragon nodded coldly. Without the dragon god's order, he would not have dared to offend the 10 orthodoxies. However, since Lin Ling had spoken, he believed that the dragon god would support him. Before he left, the dragon god had said that Lin Ling's words were equivalent to his words. You're crazy. After the old man recovered from his shock, his expression changed drastically, and he sized Lin Ling up, as if he still didn't believe that Lin Ling had the right to speak. Could it be that this martial ancestor-level kid was the son of the dragon god? How dare you? Subconsciously the old man shouted angrily. Whoosh! However, the light golden dragon's claws were already gripping young Master Rong's neck tightly. It would break his neck in the next moment. This would show young Master Rong who was carrying whose shoes. Hold on. At this critical moment, the elder had no choice but to give in. Lin Ling looked at him coldly, and suddenly sent a telepathic message. Do you know that Sima Ruachan is using this person to exchange for young Master Rong's life? Sima Ruachan? The elder frowned and quickly shook his head. The ruinous Holy Land is so big. I don't know who he is based on his name. Kill him. Lin Ling didn't look at the old man anymore. Since he couldn't help at all, what was the point of coming? Hearing Lin Ling's words, the old man's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly said, Wait, one day later, there will be a Breaking Realm Divine Treasure Convention here. You'll definitely be able to obtain the information you want there. Breaking Domain Divine Treasure Convention? Lin Ling frowned slightly then nodded. For him, since he had chosen to make a move in a high-profile manner, he had to find out some useful information, and the Divine Treasure Convention would be his breakthrough. Cripple him, Lin Ling said to the Radiant Golden Dragon. The other party did not say anything about Sima Ruachan, and only mentioned the Divine Treasure Convention. Thus he could escape death, but he could not avoid punishment. Got it. The Radiant Golden Dragon clenched its fist and grabbed at young Master Rong's dantian. Following that, a miserable cry was heard. Young Master Rong was thrown to the ground by the Radiant Golden Dragon. However, he was rolling on the ground in pain. His dantian was constantly emitting rumbling sounds. It seemed that he was indeed crippled. What a cruel move! The people on the street gasped. They did not expect the blue-robed man to be so decisive. He crippled young Master Rong without any hesitation. Young Master! The old man quickly rushed over and took out a pill to feed young Master Rong. Then, he looked at Lin Ling with red eyes. How dare you cripple my young master? If you didn't know anything before, you wouldn't have been crippled. You would have died. So, you should be able to help me. Lin Ling looked at the old man and said calmly. Good, good, good. The old man nodded heavily. At first, he thought that Lin Ling was just an inexperienced junior. But now he realized that he was wrong. This mysterious young man was decisive and full of dignity. Moreover, he dared to attack someone from the Maha-orthodoxy, even though he knew that he was from the Maha-orthodoxy. It was obvious that his background was not simple. So he endured it. Uncle Mo, I've been crippled. Kill him. Kill him now. After young Master Rong consumed the pill, he regained some of his rationality. However, he looked at Lin Ling with murderous intent. Young Master, you can't. Not yet. The old man shook his head. Although he was not weak, he was on par with the bright golden dragon. So he did not dare to attack recklessly. Don't worry. Old Master will avenge you. Then the old man comforted young Master Rong. Pfft. Hearing this, young Master Rong spat out a mouthful of blood. Previously, he was slapped in the face by Lin Ling with money. After that he wanted to avenge himself. However, not only was his revenge futile, he was even crippled. After suffering such a huge loss, not only could he not avenge himself immediately, but he also had to wait. How could he wait any longer? You should be clear about who is carrying whose shoes. Lin Ling looked at young Master Rong indifferently. Then, he strode away with the bright golden dragon. Puffed. Seeing this, Young Master Rong spat out another mouthful of blood. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. The commotion attracted even more onlookers. Everyone was shocked by the courage of the bright golden dragon. That bright golden dragon has the highest bloodline of the dragon tribe. He is also very powerful. How could he listen to a martial ancestor? How strange. That young man also has the aura of a dragon. I guess he must be the son of the dragon god. He must be. How can his identity be ordinary, if he can command the bright golden dragon? The crowd discussed fervently. The son of the dragon god. The old man squinted his eyes and mumbled to himself. He knew very well that the current dragon god of the Dragon Valley did not have any descendants. Therefore, the blue-robed young man was not the son of the dragon god. However, he had a feeling that the blue-robed young man was an important figure in the Dragon Valley. This was because he could sense the aura of a dragon from the blue-robed young man. Don't worry. Old Master will avenge you. Then, the old man looked at young Master Rong and said, "If he is a dragon, I will pluck out his dragon tendons." Young Master Rong gritted his teeth and said, "I don't believe that any important figure can make me carry his shoes. I will tell him that even if my grandfather carries his shoes, I will not carry his shoes. My grandfather will not let me suffer such hardships." Of course, young master is old master's favorite. He will not. The old man comforted him immediately. Unfortunately, they did not know that in the broken Holy Land, other than a limited number of deities, everyone else could only carry Lin Ling's shoes. At this moment, Lin Ling led the bright golden dragon forward and found an inn to stay in. He was not worried that young Master Rong's men would come looking for him. If they dared to come, Lin Ling would dare to kill them. Of course, Lin Ling planned to kill them secretly. He believed that if he really wanted to assassinate them, not many people in the broken Holy Land would know. Chapter 4506. The night of the broken divine land is like this. In the room, the light golden dragon said to Lin Ling, "I heard that this is the singing of the Whitewater Pure Maiden. She was one of the ancestors of the broken divine land. So noisy, it's like the cries of ghosts." Lin Ling frowned and said with dissatisfaction. His words caused the light golden dragon to bitterly smile. In the broken divine land, everyone thought that singing was beautiful and could calm one's heart like the sea. But in Lin Ling's mouth, it was nothing but the cries of ghosts. After Lin Ling shook his head, his soul force quietly spread out, following the ancient path, and slowly probing the two giant stone sculptures. Then, Lin Ling discovered that one of the stone sculptures emitted a mysterious fluctuation. After this fluctuation spread out, it immediately turned into a song that lingered above the broken divine land. There must be some treasure inside these stone sculptures. Lin Ling's soul power sensed that a dense spiritual qi was faintly spreading. There must be a great treasure inside the stone sculpture. However, when Lin Ling wanted to explore, he discovered that there was a powerful force on the surface of the stone sculptures that blocked all probing. This force was not an enchantment, but a kind of willpower. Unless one had the willpower to resist the stone sculptures, they wouldn't be able to open them. After exploring several more times, Lin Ling couldn't find anything, so he could only helplessly withdraw. A small boat on the misty waves, the world is like a dream. An old fisherman accompanied by seagulls, sighing over the 10,000 waves, raising the sails, drifting for 1,000 miles. The heavenly river is so vast, asking where the boat will return to, sighing over what worries and worries. The sun and moon pass easily in the mountains, drunk watching the waves of the heavenly river. When Lin Ling left, the beautiful melody also floated over. But this time, Lin Ling finally experienced the beauty of this song. Heavenly river, heavenly river. Lin Ling also heard the heavenly river twice in the song. He guessed that the Whitewater Pure Maiden was also reminiscing about the heavenly river. Unfortunately, this heavenly river should have been a river of the divine world. Now that the divine world had shattered, the heavenly river had long since ceased to exist. Heavenly river? By the way, there seems to be a guy called the Sky River Water God in the square prison. Suddenly Lin Ling's eyes lit up. He had checked the jade slips in the prison a few times, so he was familiar with the people imprisoned in the prison. Among them, There was an old man called Sky River Water God. He wondered if he was related to the Sky River mentioned by Whitewater Pure Maiden. Since he was bored waiting, Lin Ling decided to enter the square prison to take a look. All of his soul force returned to his body. Lin Ling gave some instructions to the radiant golden dragon, then entered another room. After opening the 4 sides of the prison, he entered the prison. "Sir, have you found Sima Ruochen?" As they passed by the cell of the Xianyuan treasure book, the latter looked at Lin Ling expectantly. "We've gone to his place, but we're still looking for him. After all, so many years have passed, and no one knows if Sima Ruochen has changed his name or appearance." Lin Ling said in a dignified manner. "It's okay, sir. You can take your time to find him. I've waited for so many years, and I don't mind waiting a little longer." The Xianyuan treasure book immediately replied, not daring to disturb Lin Ling. In order to maintain the dignity of the prison master, Lin Ling nodded and left. At the same time, a jade slip appeared in his hand, and a lot of information about the Sky River Water God appeared on it. The Sky River Water God was a figure from the Age of the Gods. He was in charge of the heavenly river and was a powerful god. However, he was dissatisfied with the son of a god for molesting his daughter, so he cruelly killed the son of a god. In the end, he committed a grave mistake and was sent to prison. In the ancient times and the Age of the Gods, the rules were very strict, so it was difficult to escape punishment if one committed a grave mistake. If the realm of the gods had not been shattered and this prison was broken, I might not have been able to get the square prison. However, I heard from the Empyrean Maiden that there are several such prisons. It would be great if I could get them all. Lin Ling thought to himself. After a while, he stopped and stood in front of a big prison. Inside sat a shirtless old man. He had a head of blue hair that was like a lion's mane. Each strand of hair stood erect, looking very domineering. Moreover, he was tall and sturdy. He sat there quietly like a door god. "Prison master, what can I do for you?" When he saw Lin Ling, he also spoke in a low voice. If it were not for the prison, Lin Ling would have been frightened by that voice. Such strength was probably the strength of a superior deity, or an intermediate deity. It would be difficult for him to kill Lin Ling in an instant. "What? You won't even let me see you?" However, Lin Ling was a prison master. Even if he was afraid, he still looked dignified and cold on the surface. No, I'm just an old man. If you want to see me, you can see me." Moreover, the old man did not dare to provoke Lin Ling. Other things aside, just the fact that Lin Ling controlled the prison punishment alone was enough for the old man to give Lin Ling face. "Sky River Water God, I want to ask you if you have a daughter named Whitewater Pure Maiden." Lin Ling did not beat around the bush and asked directly. Pure Maiden, do you have news of her?" Hearing that, the originally domineering and unruly old man's expression changed instantly. He rushed toward the prison cell. A sound like the rolling sea surged over, intimidating Lin Ling so much that he quietly took half a step back. The Sky River Water God's strength was indeed strong. However, when he saw the old man's expression, Lin Ling knew that he had made the right choice. "Yes, I do. However, she might already be dead." Lin Ling said calmly. "How can that be?" "No, that's impossible. Back then, during the twilight of the gods, I clearly sent her away. Moreover, according to Pure Maiden's strength, she shouldn't have exhausted her lifespan so quickly." The old man frowned, his face full of worry. "How would I know? Anyway, I saw her statue somewhere in the broken divine realm. That's what happened." Lin Ling said coldly. "She's not dead. She's not dead yet. She cultivated the aqua sky purification technique and is now in a state of suspended animation. Prison master, please let me out. I want to see my daughter. Please." When the old man heard that, he became even more agitated. "She's really not dead." Lin Ling was secretly shocked. If that was the case, then Whitewater Pure Maiden's strength would be extremely terrifying. "Do you think the prison is your home? Do you think you can get out just because you want to?" Then Lin Ling said indifferently. Then he turned around and left. "I'm just asking casually. Since you know Whitewater Pure Maiden, then forget it. Goodbye." "Wait, prison master, please wait." Seeing that Lin Ling was about to leave, the old man was obviously anxious. This was because he suddenly remembered that Whitewater Pure Maiden's suspended animation would be endless if she did not learn the next level of the Aqua Sky Purification Technique. Chapter 4507. Back then, I left the first 3 stages of the Pure Sky Water Technique to Su Nu, which can make a god fake death for 3 million years. But now, I'm afraid that time has passed. So I'll have to trouble Lord Prison Warden to give the last 3 stages to my daughter. Only then will she be able to wake up and make a breakthrough in her cultivation. Because the Pure Sky Water Technique can avoid the acceleration of one's lifespan and increase one's cultivation level at the same time. Alas, back then, I miscalculated and thought that Su Nu could only cultivate the first 2 stages of the technique. Who would have thought that I would be imprisoned for so many years and can no longer pass the technique to her? Please, please help me. The old man pleaded Lin Ling, afraid that Lin Ling would turn and leave. Do you think I'm a delivery boy? Lin Ling frowned and pretended to be unhappy. Delivery boy? What's that? The old man was confused. It means to deliver something. Why should I help you deliver something? You should solve your own problem. I'm a prison officer, not Lei Feng. Lin Ling snorted and turned to leave, but his pace was slow because he was waiting for the Sky River Water God to reward him. Sir, don't go. Help me. The Sky River Water God knew that after Lin Ling left, it would be 100,000 years before they could meet again. If nothing happened, this prison officer might not even come back for the rest of his life. Therefore, he couldn't miss this opportunity. My lord, Su Nu has cultivated the great Aqua Sky technique. The stone statue that she has transformed into is filled with heavenly aqua spirit comet liquid. This kind of treasure is extremely rare and very suitable for cultivation. If you want an example, it is even more precious than the divine spring. The old man said again. Oh, is it a lot? Lin Ling squinted and still looked lazy. However, he was secretly tempted. Whether it was opening the 8th dantian or breaking through, it would require endless cultivation resources. Therefore, this pure sky water spiritual comet fluid was more precious than the holy spring. He didn't want to miss it. Although Lin Ling was now full of treasures, it was not enough for cultivation. If he used it to open the 8th dantian, even 100 times more would not be enough. This was also the reason why Lin Ling had yet to open his 8th dantian. Many, I'll leave a letter for you, asking Su Nu to help you a lot. You can put forward your conditions to her. Sky River Water God saw that Lin Ling was tempted and hurriedly said with a smile, afraid that he would miss this opportunity. Since I have nothing to do, I'll help you. However, how do I open the stone sculpture? Lin Ling asked. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you everything later. I just have a small condition. I hope that I can meet Su Nu in the future. What do you think? The Sky River Water God rubbed his hands and said. He no longer looked like the person who was in charge of the million-strong Water God army. Instead, he looked like an old man who was bargaining for advice. Let's talk about it when the time comes. That's because one thing is another. Don't think about using this opportunity to raise the price. Lin Ling reprimanded. My lord, you're right. I'll write you a letter now. I'll have to trouble you to teach Su Nu the last 3 stages of the Aqua Sky technique. The old man hurriedly knelt down and wrote a letter with his divine origin. Lin Ling looked indifferent on the surface, but from the corner of his eye, he saw that the old man had written in the letter, asking Su Nu to treat this lord well. She must remember not to offend him, and must satisfy any of his conditions. That's more like it. Lin Ling nodded secretly. After receiving the letter, he strode away. He did not expect such a pleasant surprise. He just hoped that Su Nu would not be too poor. However, Su Nu was one of the ancestors of the godly soil of the broken territory. No matter how poor she was, she could not be that poor. After leaving the square prison, Lin Ling appeared in his room. Just as he kept the stone tablet of the square prison, there was a knock on the door. It turned out that Dawn had arrived unknowingly. Today, he would go to the so-called Broken Territory Divine Treasure Convention with the bright golden dragon. When he opened the door, he saw that the bright golden dragon was already standing there. Lin Ling greeted it, and then left the inn. The street was obviously more lively than the day before. The Broken Territory Divine Treasure Convention was a grand event of the Broken Territory Divine Realm. On this day, all the famous people of the Broken Territory Divine Realm would come to exchange treasures and things they needed. Lin Ling asked around, then followed the crowd, and walked toward the venue of the Broken Territory Divine Treasure Convention. Although Sima Ruachan might not appear in the Broken Territory Divine Realm, since so many deities had gathered, he could more or less find out some information. Not long after, an island in the sky appeared in front of him. It was very beautiful. Around the island, there were thousands of rays of light in thousands of auspicious colors. Also, dragon-like stairs were connected to the island in the sky. On the stairs, a large number of deities in celestial robes rode on divine beasts, or carried swords on their backs, as they walked toward the island step by step. From time to time, sounds of bustling noise could be heard from the sky. Looking at the surroundings of the island, a large number of people had gathered, and were talking excitedly. I asked a middle spiritual Taoist to buy the divine spring for me. TSK, the Divine Treasure Convention is finally here. If I can buy the divine spring, I will definitely be able to break through my realm. I really envy you. You actually know a middle spiritual Taoist. Sigh, I also want to buy some treasures, but I don't have the connections. Next time, I'm afraid I'll miss this year's convention. If I can become famous in the Broken Territory Divine Realm next time, and my reputation reaches the 10th grade, I can also participate in the Divine Treasure Convention. This is something that will bring honor to my ancestors. Hearing those voices, Lin Ling blinked. It turned out that the Divine Treasure Convention also required a quota. Lin Ling, should we keep a low profile, or keep a high profile? The bright golden dragon looked at Lin Ling and asked. Keeping a low profile won't work anymore. Let's keep a high profile. Lin Ling thought for a while and said lightly. Then, he led the bright golden dragon up one of the stairs. Hey, those two people look so familiar. Who are they? Could they be from the immortal spirit hegemony nation? It doesn't look like it, but the immortal robes they're wearing are obviously expensive. I'm afraid they have a powerful background. Some people stared at Lin Ling and the bright golden dragon, then whispered to each other. Although they didn't know who Lin Ling and the bright golden dragon were, Lin Ling's blue and white robes were too eye-catching. Therefore, they didn't look down on him. Lin Ling, who was at the top of the stairs, smiled. It looked like he didn't buy the fish-swallowing sea robe wrongly. In this era where clothes make the man, at least it could save him a lot of trouble. The bright golden dragon also smiled. He was glad that he had brought Lin Ling to buy the immortal robes. Of course, this laughter didn't last long. This was because when Lin Ling and the bright golden dragon reached the end of the stairs, they were stopped by someone. Fellow cultivator, please wait. Two men in immortal robes, who were early-stage lower deities, stopped Lin Ling and the bright golden dragon with a smile. They were obviously here to guard the stairs and prevent outsiders from entering as they pleased. Chapter 4508. Look at your silly faces. This must be your first time here. You two poor fellows, get out of here. Get out. One of them raised his nose and said impatiently. Look at you, you look like pigs. You don't look like a crown prince when you're wearing a dragon robe. You're asking for a beating. Get out. The other person was even more impatient. He raised his hand and slapped Lin Ling mercilessly. His action attracted the attention of many people. Many people pointed at him and laughed at him. Every year, there are always some country bumpkins who make up the numbers. They don't know that there are records of the Divine Treasure Convention. As long as someone is not invited, the jade plates in the hands of the guards will light up. I see. Does that mean that those who are not invited will never have the chance to participate? Not necessarily. That's not necessarily true. If it's a very famous person, or someone with a big background, then it's still possible. Get out. Many people were looking forward to Lin Ling and the other person being kicked off the island. However, the hand did not hit Lin Ling. Instead, it was caught by an arm. The arm was golden and dazzling. After it caught the hand of the person, the latter could not move at all. Then, another hand broke through the air at an extremely fast speed. It drew a dazzling golden light and landed on the face of the person who made the move. Slap. A crisp slap sounded. Then people saw a clear palm print on the face of the person who made the move. How dare you hit me? You're courting death. Get out. The eyes of the person who made the move narrowed, and he was about to attack. However, his eyes suddenly fixed on the arm of the person who made the move. Because the arm was full of dragon scales, dazzling and dazzling. Dragon clan. He was tongue-tied as he spoke. The dragon clan was far away from the divine land of the Broken Realm. They had a lot of contact with the Broken Realm. Although their overall strength was not as strong as the Broken Realm, they were still a big monster. At least, they were not something that a small deity like him, who was guarding the island, could provoke. Moreover, this person was not invited. However, with his identity as a member of the Dragon Clan, he was also one of the famous people who could participate in the Divine Treasure Convention. Well, my fellow cultivator, I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Alright. This person hurriedly smiled apologetically, but that smile was uglier than crying. The person beside him also stared at the dazzling golden dragon claw. Without saying a word, he ruthlessly slapped himself thrice. Pa pa pa. After that, he looked at the radiant golden dragon with an obsequious smile and said, "Fellow Taoist, is that enough? If not, there's more." After he finished speaking, he slapped himself a few more times. After that, he smiled apologetically. "Is it enough?" It was as if he was addicted to fighting. Me too. The other person did not want to be outdone, and also gave himself a few slaps. Pa pa pa. The two of them took turns to hit their own faces. Originally, they looked like they were floating in the air, but now their long hair was messed up, and they were in a very sorry state. Get lost. Lin Ling, who was behind the radiant golden dragon, could not be bothered with them. Okay, get out of here. In order to let Lin Ling and the others vent their anger, these two people actually rolled down the stairs without saying anything, like two rubber balls. Bang! In the end, two dull sounds could be heard. The two people seemed to have rolled down the stairs and directly hit the ground. How creative! Lin Ling looked back and then strode forward. People from the Dragon Valley. The surrounding people looked deeply at the backs of Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon and frowned. This was because the people from the Dragon Valley had not participated in the Divine Treasure Convention for many years. Look at that aura and that dazzling golden light. I'm afraid it's the supreme bloodline of the dragon tribe. Yes. However, this person was more curious about the supreme bloodline of the dragon tribe. It seemed that the supreme bloodline of the dragon tribe obeyed the words of the young man in the blue and white celestial robe. Who was that young man in the blue and white celestial robe? In fact, many people were curious about this question. At this moment, Lin Ling did not know what the crowd was thinking. He also did not know that his blue and white robe had attracted the attention of many people. He and the radiant golden dragon walked down the stairs and finally reached the island. As far as the eye could see, the island was magnificent. It was like an ancient Roman battlefield. Circles of tables and chairs were built around it. In the middle was a huge platform. There were white clouds floating around the platform. It was very ethereal. At the same time, noises could be heard constantly, and it was somewhat deafening. The rules of the Divine Treasure Convention are not auctions, but treasure transactions. One person takes out a treasure that he doesn't need, and another person takes out a treasure of the same level, and then they trade with each other. The radiant golden dragon led Lin Ling along the corridor. However, the stone chairs on the side were all filled with people. Some were sitting cross-legged, and some were whispering to each other. Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon walked for a long time, but they did not see any seats. This made them frown. The Divine Treasure Convention was more lively than they had imagined. Moreover, they saw that at the 4 entrances, there was still an endless stream of people coming in. Finally, Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon saw 2 empty chairs. However, an old man was lying on them. The old man had big eyes and thick eyebrows. He was wearing a loose brown robe, and he occupied 3 stone chairs by himself. Get out of my way! Lin Ling was not interested in looking for any more seats. He looked at the old man indifferently and said, the old man's strength was not bad. He was slightly stronger than the radiant golden dragon. He could be considered as having the strength of a god. In terms of strength, the broken divine land was indeed slightly stronger than the 9 states void. Fellow cultivator, you're talking to me. The old man originally squinted his eyes. After hearing Lin Ling's words, he opened his eyes, and a powerful aura spread out. This aura was like an invisible ripple. After it spread out, many people turned their heads to look. When they saw the old man, their expressions changed slightly. Tao Lord Water Gourd, someone said with a trembling voice. Tao Lord Water Gourd was an extremely ancient figure. He was from the same era as the 10 orthodoxies. However, his strength was not as strong as the 10 orthodoxies. However, he was considered a person of virtue and prestige in the broken divine land. No one dared to provoke him. I asked you to get out of my way. Didn't you hear me? At this moment, Lin Ling spoke once again. Meanwhile, the radiant golden dragon's heart skipped a beat. This was the first god he and Lin Ling had encountered after coming to the broken divine land. However, he did not expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant and not be afraid of the old man. Kid, you're only a martial progenitor. The person beside you has the supreme bloodline of the dragon tribe. His strength is not bad, and he's half a step away from becoming a god. However, do you think you can reprimand me with that? Or is it because the dragon god has given you the courage? The old man's expression turned cold. An even more ancient aura spread out from his body. Chapter 4509. Smack. The light golden dragon's face turned pale, and he took a step back. This aura was too strong, and he could not resist it. It was as if he had seen the dragon god. Although the old man's strength couldn't compare to the dragon god's, his knowledge, background, age, and so on weren't inferior to the dragon gods. It was precisely this aura that made the radiant golden dragon feel guilty. I said scram. Otherwise I'll throw you out. However, Lin Ling was not afraid of that ancient aura at all. With his strength, crushing Tao Lord Water Gourd was as easy as flipping his hand. Of course, the most important thing was that Tao Lord Water Gourd took advantage of his seniority and thought that he could make Lin Ling feel guilty with just his aura alone. However, what he did not know was that Lin Ling had even seen people from the ancient era, let alone people from the age of Pantheon. In his square prison, there were many people who were even more ancient than Tao Lord Water Gourd. Compared to them, Tao Lord Water Gourd was like a child. What? Tao Lord Water Gourd's expression changed when he saw Lin Ling take a step forward. This was because he saw that the light golden dragon was stronger than Lin Ling. However, even the light golden dragon was afraid of him, but Lin Ling was not. Moreover, his aura was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. Why was this ordinary-looking kid not afraid? You're a good-for-nothing. I'm not going to play with you anymore. Tao Lord Water Gourd gritted his teeth and said angrily. Then he gave up his seat and left. For some reason, he had a feeling that if he continued to show off, he would be the one to suffer. Although this feeling was ridiculous since the other party was only a martial ancestor, it was this feeling that allowed him to survive from the age of gods. This intuition had allowed him to escape death many times. Even Tao Lord Water Gourd was scared away. The surrounding people were undoubtedly shocked and in disbelief. It's him. The two people on the stairs. Someone recognized Lin Ling, and Lin Ling's blue and white robe was too eye-catching. I think someone from the Dragon Clan taught young Master Rong a lesson yesterday. Could it be them? It must be them. I heard that one of them is called the son of the dragon god. Whispers could be heard everywhere. Those who could appear here were all people of high status. Even they had heard of Lin Ling. From this, one could see the impact Lin Ling's group had brought to the 10 orthodoxies. Interesting. When did such a berserk dragon appear in the dragon race? On the other side of the island, an old man with long and narrow eyebrows looked indifferently at Lin Ling, Lord Orthodoxy. It's just the dragon race. What's so great about them? Only the dragon god is powerful. The rest are not worth mentioning. Someone at the side immediately said. No. The old man with long eyebrows kindly shook his head and said, This person gives me a very familiar feeling. I'm sure I've seen her before, and it was around this time. It's just that I can't remember where I saw her. Lord Orthodoxy, Some time ago, you went to the sacred mountain of the Ox Cave to fight for the stone tablet of the will of the world. Could it be there? The person at the side reminded him. The old man with long eyebrows' eyes lit up instantly. Perhaps it's there. However, I've only seen the god at that time. This person seems to be a mere martial progenitor. However, let's not alert him first. Let's investigate slowly and find out his motive. Then the old man said again. Yes, Lord Orthodoxy. The person at the side immediately nodded. While they were talking, Lin Ling also sensed a strange gaze looking at him. Therefore, Lin Ling also noticed the old man with white eyebrows. He was shocked because the old man was the strongest person on the island. His strength was comparable to the 9 continents' 4 great gods. He reckoned that the old man was an orthodoxy. Moreover, Lin Ling felt that this orthodoxy was even stronger than the orthodoxy that borrowed one's life. Of course, Lin Ling was only slightly surprised. He did not take the old man seriously. If he was not looking for Sima Ruachan, he would not have to hide his identity at all. He was not afraid to wander around here. As time passed, more and more people walked in, and these people were not weak at all. Although there were no orthodoxies, there were still disciples of orthodoxies. The disciples of orthodoxies were only second to one person in the Crossland Divine Land. No one dared to disrespect them. In fact, young Master Rong could see that. Young Master Rong was the grandson of a disciple of an orthodoxy, but he could do whatever he wanted in this city. There were a total of 5 disciples of orthodoxies. They were Xing Luo, the immortal of Great Qian, the cloud-shocking god-destroying sword, the king of medicine, and Feng Xianyue. These people were very powerful. If they weren't gods, then they were half a step away from becoming gods. They had also made a name for themselves in the Crossland Divine Land. After they sat down slowly, the entire island became inexplicably quiet. People were curious as to why they were here. Were they here to see if there were any suitable treasures? However, it was obvious that if they were interested in a treasure, no one would dare to snatch it from them unless they were on their side. Even those who took out treasures to trade would not dare to bid too high a price. It's them. At this moment, the bright golden dragon beside Lin Ling whispered. You know them? Lin Ling immediately asked curiously. Then he saw the bright golden dragon nodding. Back then, before I went to the void of the 9 states, I often came to the Crossland Divine Land. Lord Dragon God in the Valley also asked me to spar with the disciples of the Crossland Divine Land. So I know them and have fought with them before. Of course, I mostly lost more than I won. It seems like they are quite powerful. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Of course, with your strength, you don't have to be afraid of them. After all, you are Lei Gong. Their status is not on the same level as yours. Only the orthodoxies behind them are qualified to talk to you. Anyway, in terms of status, strength, and age, they are all below you. The bright golden dragon continued. However, halfway through his words, his eyes suddenly narrowed. In terms of status and strength, you are above them. However, in terms of age, I seem to be older than you. Indeed. Lin Ling nodded again. The light golden dragon's face instantly turned gloomy. This Lin Ling is really sick. As the two of them were talking, someone flew down from the platform in the center of the island. It was a very enchanting beauty. She was wearing an immortal robe that was as thin as a silkworm's wing. Her snow-white skin was faintly discernible, especially her voluptuous upper body. As she lowered her head, the spring scenery was exposed. Wow! Around the island, exclamations of surprise could be heard. Those seemingly elegant immortals were secretly drooling. She did not look like an immortal at all. Chapter 45:10. This is the 3 stones of spiritual fennel that I found in the divine realm. It's millions of years old and can increase a martial artist's divine power. It's especially helpful for the earth element. However, I don't have an earth element talent, so it's useless. Now, I want to exchange it for some water element treasures or cultivation treasures. Sure. The beauty said with a smile. Then, she took out a stone flower from her plump chest and waved it at the sky. Wow! Even more uproars rang out. She took it out from there. TSK. Ignoring the value of this treasure, just the fragrance alone was enough to make any male animal's blood boil. I have a water element treasure. I have a bottle of heavenly stem fairy dew. It's a treasure that only produces one drop every 10,000 years. I'll use this bottle to exchange for it. What do you think? A man in a dirty robe said with a smile. From the looks of it, he didn't seem to be after the treasure, but the fragrance. How dare trash like you embarrass yourself here? At this moment, a disdainful voice sounded. Then, a small azure bell floated to the center of the island and sprinkled countless drops of dew. This is the Dongluo dew bell. I'll exchange it for your 3 stones of spiritual fennel. You should know that this Dongluo dew bell can not only increase the talent of a water element divine fetus, but also increase one's cultivation speed by 10%. Can I exchange it? A man in a yellow robe said proudly. Everyone stared at the small bell and licked their lips. That small bell was an extremely rare treasure. Exchange, exchange, exchange. The beauty on the island was delighted. She quickly threw out the 3 stones of spiritual fennel, took the small bell, and left excitedly. As for the man, he was obviously at a disadvantage. However, he didn't seem to care. After taking the stone flower, he put it in front of his nose and sniffed it. Then, a look of enjoyment appeared on his face. And this person was obviously not here for the 3 stone spirit fennel, but for the maiden fragrance. This made everyone envious. They recognized the man's origin. He was Xing Luo, a disciple of Golden Pavilion. He had 10 orthodoxies behind him, so he naturally had the confidence to do so. With this good start, the island gradually became lively. One by one, experts took out their treasures to exchange for something suitable. Among these treasures, some were very popular, while others were like trash that no one cared about. Those who offered ordinary treasures naturally fled in defeat amidst the countless jeers and jeers. Moreover, everyone had one chance to present their treasures. No matter what kind of treasures they exchanged for, they couldn't appear on the stage again. It's all trash. Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon sat there quietly. Lin Ling shook his head in disdain. He had a lot of treasures now. Naturally, he wouldn't be interested in those treasures. But what made him feel helpless was that there was still no news of Sima Ruochen. Lin Ling, why don't you take out a valuable treasure and exchange it with information? Who knew that Sima Ruochen would be able to get such a treasure? At the side, the radiant golden dragon suddenly spoke. That's possible. Lin Ling nodded. Next, he continued to wait. However, before it was his turn to present his treasures, at the center of the island, a skinny girl carrying a huge skeleton was struggling to walk up the stone platform. The girl was wearing a tattered immortal robe. Her face was as pale as paper, as if a gust of wind could blow her away. However, the skeleton on her back was extremely large. When it landed on the stone platform, it made a metallic sound. If one looked closely, the surface of the skeleton was covered with lightning snakes. Anyone who got close to the skeleton would be ravaged by the lightning snakes. Although they wouldn't be injured, it would definitely be a terrible feeling. However, the skinny girl seemed to ignore the lightning snakes. She gritted her teeth and carried the skeleton on her back. Obviously, she couldn't ignore the lightning. She just endured all the pain. Thousand ancient thunder beast. After putting down the skeleton, the girl panted heavily. She looked at the crowd and said, I found this in a relic in the shattered realm of the gods. It's very rare. I only hope to exchange it for a treasure that can heal the serious injuries of gods. Is that okay? Her voice was anxious and pleading. She looked at the crowd with her big watery eyes. Thousand ancient thunder beast? The crowd's expression changed slightly. They were all descendants of the era of the gods. Therefore, they were familiar with the era of the gods since they were young. They had also heard of the Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast. The Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast was an extremely difficult existence to deal with during the era of the gods. Not only was it fast, but it also had a tough skeleton. It was like an undying lightning. However, because of its tough skeleton, the Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast was useless. It was too difficult to refine. Little girl, that's the corpse of the Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast, not the Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast. If it was the Thousand Ancient Thunder Beast, I might be interested. As for this broken skeleton, hee, what use do we have for it? To make soup. It's a waste of our fire. An old man suddenly said disdainfully, "Yeah, it can't be refined or used to forge treasures. What's the use of it? You want to exchange it for treasures? I feel like I'm losing out even if you exchange it for a strand of hair." Someone else said, his face full of mockery. They weren't stupid. They were dreaming if they wanted to exchange this useless skeleton for a treasure that could heal the injuries of gods. That was because the injuries of gods were the hardest to heal. Therefore, they would rather keep this treasure for themselves than exchange it for that broken skeleton. But I brought this skeleton back from the realm of the gods. Even if I don't have any credit, I still have to thank my hard work. I beg you, just one pill will do. The girl was anxious, and her eyes were wet. Her grandfather was seriously injured and was about to die. If she couldn't find a treasure that could heal his injuries, her grandfather would definitely die. Idiot, get lost. Next. However, no one sympathized with her. Instead, they wanted her to get lost immediately. The girl finally cried. However, she still didn't give up and shouted, "Thousand ancient thunder beast, anyone wants it? Get lost." However, what she got in return was a lot of cold voices. Pa, 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 pa. The girl used her trembling hands to grab the skeleton of the thousand ancient thunder beast. Enduring the pain of the lightning, she wanted to leave the stone platform with the skeleton on her back. Although she knew that no one wanted this thousand ancient thunder beast, she had risked her life to carry it back from the realm of the gods. She was the only one who knew the bitterness and sweat she had put in. Although the realm of the gods wasn't far from the broken Holy Land, it was only a relative term. It was closer than the void of the 9 continents. This thousand ancient thunder beast, I want it. However, at this moment, a lazy voice rang out like a bolt from the blue, shocking the silence of the island. The girl raised her head abruptly, and her tears finally fell. Finally, someone wanted it? At this moment, everyone looked at the person who had spoken. They saw that it was a young man in a blue and white celestial robe. The girl stared at the young man, as if she wanted to use her life's memory to remember his face. Chapter 45:11. Is that young man a fool? He could neither refine the ancient lightning beast, nor forge any treasures. What's the use of it? Could it be that the young man is a bone collector? Young master, are you really going to exchange your healing elixir for my ancient lightning beast? At this moment, the young woman asked. Of course. I have plenty of healing elixirs for deities. How about I give you a drop of jade cicada true liquid? The lazy voice was heard again. It was Lin Ling, ancient lightning beast. Although it was his first time seeing it, when the skeleton was brought out, he immediately felt a familiar energy being born in his body. It was as though the energy was calling out to him. This familiar energy came from the Luai's real body. The Luai's real body was a lightning element divine fetus. It needed a lightning element treasure to increase its level. All this while, Lin Ling had been unhappy because he had too many talents. In addition, lightning element treasures were hard to find. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to the Luai's real body. Now that he had finally found one, how could he let it go? Jade cicada true liquid? Oh my god, this is a divine liquid that can heal deities. Is that young man a fool? A drop of jade cicada true liquid is priceless. It can heal deities and heal injuries. You can exchange it for any treasure. How could he exchange it for a broken bone? Who is he? Does his parents know that he is a prodigal? The entire island was silent for a moment. Then it exploded. Originally, it was shocking enough that someone wanted to trade the ancient lightning beast. However, what was even more shocking was that the person was using the jade cicada true liquid to trade for it. It's hard to buy good things with money. I am a bone collector. Now I have more than 1,000 bones in my backyard. The only thing missing is the ancient lightning beast. Lin Ling said with a smile. He did not care about the mockery of the crowd. This was because he was confident that if he refined the bone, his Luai's real body would become an intermediate deity. His strength would be greatly enhanced. At that time, he would be invincible among lower deities. Jade cicada true liquid? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, young master. Thank you. The young girl was stunned for a moment before she excitedly saluted Lin Ling. She also knew how precious the jade cicada true fluid was. Although it couldn't immediately heal her grandfather's injuries, it could at least save his life. One good fortune sky-mending pill. However, a voice suddenly interrupted the conversation. A woman in a green immortal robe at the corner of the island spoke calmly. King of medicine. Everyone was shocked when they saw the woman. They thought it was another prodigal son. But who knew it was the medicine king? This was because he was a disciple of full moon orthodoxy. Although this good fortune sky-mending pill of mine is not as precious as the jade cicada true fluid, not only does it have the effect of healing, but it can also assist in cultivation. If the injury suffered by a deity is not life-threatening, then there is no need for the jade cicada true fluid. The woman said indifferently, I just remembered that I need an ancient lightning beast to refine some kind of divine medicine. Therefore I must obtain this bone. Whoever tries to steal it from me will have to bear the consequences. Not only did she shout out a price, but her words were also full of threats. However, Lin Ling still looked lazy and said at the same time, 2 drops of jade cicada true fluid. Is this guy crazy? Everyone was shocked again and again by that voice. Their mouths were dry, and they couldn't believe it. That blue-robed young man was not only a prodigal son, but also a prodigal son with no foresight. That was because he dared to compete with a disciple of orthodoxy for a treasure. One should know that the medicine king had his eyes on the ancient lightning beast, so he must be using it to refine the divine medicine. That blue-robed young man was just a bone collector. To openly provoke a disciple of orthodoxy for his collection, he must be out of his mind. 3 good fortune sky-mending pills. Even a deity who has been burned to ashes can recover with the help of these pills, and his strength will be greatly improved. The woman's voice became cold. At the same time, she looked at Lin Ling. Not only was there a threat in her eyes, but there was also a murderous intent. The rule of the Divine Treasure Convention was that no one was allowed to threaten the person who offered the treasure. However, that didn't mean that they couldn't threaten the person who offered the treasure. After all, if one threatened the person who offered the treasure and used the cheapest price to snatch the treasure, then after a long time, the person who offered the treasure would not dare to take it out again. On the other hand, the person who threatened the bidder wouldn't. In short, the highest bidder would win. 4 drops of jade cicada true fluid. However, Lin Ling didn't even look at the woman and raised the price again. He didn't know the medicine king at all. Even if he did, he wouldn't take him seriously. Moreover, even if the medicine king had asked him nicely, Lin Ling wouldn't give up the ancient lightning beast. Not to mention that the other party dared to threaten him. Playing with treasures, right? Fine. I'll play with you and see who has more treasures. You. Lin Ling's words were undoubtedly a slap to the medicine king's face. She had thought that Lin Ling was angry and had lost his mind. However, who knew that Lin Ling would go against her? A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. As a disciple of an orthodoxy, she naturally couldn't throw away her dignity. You what? If you have the guts to bid, then shut up. Lin Ling sneered. He was unscrupulous. I'll remember you. Although the medicine king wanted to bid with Lin Ling again, it was a pity that she didn't bring enough treasures. Therefore she admitted defeat. It's over. That prodigal is done for. Who is he? How can he be so arrogant? Does he know how to write the word death? I think he's from the Dragon Valley. His nickname is Divine Dragon Prince. Since when did the Dragon Valley become so arrogant? Although many people were surprised by Lin Ling's background, it didn't mean that he could do whatever he wanted just because he was from the Dragon Valley. Thank you, Prince. Thank you. The young woman had already arrived outside the stone platform with the gigantic skeleton on her back. Lin Ling also flew over and kept the skeleton. Then, he handed over 4 drops of jade cicada true fluid. Thank you, thank you. After receiving the fluid, the young woman immediately bowed deeply to Lin Ling. Lin Ling smiled and said, That woman from before seems to be from the orthodoxy. Aren't you afraid of offending her by trading the skeleton with me? I'm afraid because I know that you are the one who will help me in my hour of need. She is just the icing on the cake. Therefore, from the bottom of my heart, I want to trade with you more. The young woman raised her head and said with determination in her eyes. Previously, she was isolated and helpless. Everyone was laughing at her. Lin Ling was the first to speak. If not for Lin Ling, the Medicine King might not have spoken. She was very clear about this. What if my final price is lower than the Medicine King's? Lin Ling asked again. I will still trade with you. The young woman thought for a moment and said with gritted teeth. Chapter 45:12. This robe can help you block 3 late-stage low god attacks. Don't use it unless you are in a life-or-death situation. Remember that. Lin Ling turned and left after saying those words. He could tell that the young lady had gone through so much trouble to get the healing elixir not for herself, but for someone else. Lin Ling admired her for that. In addition, although the King of Medicine would not vent his anger on the young girl, it was important to be cautious. Hence, Lin Ling had given the young girl a life-saving treasure. Thank you, young master. Thank you. The young lady felt a warm current flowing into her body. She cried and bowed to Lin Ling again. If you can't survive in the cataclysm, go to the Dragon Valley and ask the Dragon God to send you to the void of the 9 states. Then, go to the Azure State and look for someone called the Third Princess. Tell her that you belong to me, Lin Ling. This person will ensure your safety for the rest of your life. Lin Ling's voice quietly entered the young girl's mind. The young girl nodded her head heavily, and then left as well. Hee Lin Ling, your name has spread across the entire island. They say that you are the young master of the Dragon God. TSK, you have greatly increased the prestige of the Dragon Valley. After Lin Ling left, the radiant golden dragon immediately laughed. It seemed that he was very excited. Although the Dragon Valley was not afraid of the cataclysm, the Dragon God had told them not to provoke the people of the cataclysm. Therefore, they did not dare to be too arrogant in the cataclysm. However, Lin Ling dared to do so. Even if the Dragon God knew about it, he would not say anything. Therefore, this made the radiant golden dragon very happy. It doesn't matter whether you are the young master of the Dragon God or not. I am looking forward to seeing when it will be our turn to present our treasures. Lin Ling shook his head and sat back down. However, he could sense that many people were quietly looking at him. There was the orthodoxy hidden in the crowd, Dao Lord Watergourd, and a few other orthodoxy's disciples. The King of Medicine in particular was glaring at Lin Ling with a murderous aura. It was as if she was saying, "You're dead meat after the Divine Treasure Convention." Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't care about these gazes at all. He was still unperturbed. Not long after he sat down, an old voice rang out. The Holy Light Treasure Book is a divine technique that I found in the ruins of the Broken God realm. However, this treasure book is lost, and only the second part is left. The first and the remaining parts have all disappeared. I only want to exchange for treasures. As for offensive treasures, they must be able to kill mid-stage low gods. The more treasures, the better. On the stone platform, a one-armed old man stood there with an ancient book in his hand. However, one could see that the book had been torn in half by someone. It was very dilapidated and ancient. Wow, you're asking for too much. You want to trade a tattered book for a treasure that can attack a demigod? You must be dreaming. The island was silent for a moment before a large number of disdainful voices rang out. A mid-stage low god was no weakling. He was just one step away from becoming a god. Therefore, who would be so stupid to trade such a treasure for a useless book? The old man was a little embarrassed, but he immediately said, "Although the Holy Light Treasure Book is very complicated, there is a page that states that it can be used to cultivate the steps of the gods." After he finished speaking, the old man used his divine energy to display the page. Ancient words floated on the stone platform. They were profound and mysterious. At this moment, everyone's breathing quickened. The steps of the gods was a power that was even more terrifying than the energy of God. This power was the power of the great Tao of the Void. It had the power to defy the heavens and change one's fate. It could be said that when the energy of God went against the steps of the gods, unless the energy of God was extremely powerful, the energy of God would definitely lose. Moreover, although the number of steps of the gods that could be cultivated was limited, if it could be combined with one's innate talent, it could explode with unexpected results. Every god wanted to comprehend the steps of the gods that belonged to them. Although I can't guarantee that this broken book can cultivate the steps of the gods, at least there is hope. In fact, it also depends on the individual's comprehension ability. When the old man saw that the island was silent, he knew that everyone was tempted. Therefore he spoke again. If this holy light treasure book is real, then it is indeed worth the price. Even if it can't cultivate the steps of the gods, it can still increase the foundation of a breakthrough. However, the treasure you want to trade is too precious. Where can an ordinary person take out such a treasure? Someone said with a frown. It was obvious that he was tempted and was bargaining with the old man. However, the old man was very stubborn. He shook his head and said, "To tell you the truth, I have an enemy. I must kill him, but he is too strong. That's why I need this treasure. I'm sorry." Since the old man had said so, everyone could only secretly shake their heads. After all, this was a trade between both parties. If the treasure you took out was not satisfactory, then the other party had the right to reject the trade. Interesting. I didn't expect that there would be so many ancient treasures in the Divine Treasure Convention. It seems that the people of the broken Holy Land often go in and out of the divine world to search for treasures. Lin Ling said with a smile as he looked at the scene calmly. If it were not for the fact that he did not have the talent of the light element, he would have bought it to take a look. Moreover, among the people he knew, no one had such talent. Only Yi was close to this talent. However, she was still not a pure light element talent. I will take out a time shuttle. It can injure an ordinary mid-stage lower deity. At this time, a crisp voice sounded. On the other side of the island, a dark-skinned, ordinary-looking woman said, "It's her." However, Lin Ling's soul power was so powerful that he instantly recognized the woman. The main reason was that he was too familiar with the woman. He knew her aura because that woman was Longyang. Longyang had also come to the broken Holy Land and had concealed her identity. This woman was really amazing. She had traveled far and wide and could be found in all the forbidden lands. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. He was even more impressed with Longyang. This was because Longyang was very similar to her in one aspect. She had always relied on herself to become stronger. Perhaps she would borrow the power of others, and sometimes she would be lucky. However, without a strong background, she had to solve everything by herself. In this aspect, she was much better than those cultivators who were born with a golden spoon in their mouths. Longyang could be considered as someone who Lin Ling had watched grow and become stronger. However, Longyang had taken a fancy to the Holy Light Treasure Tome. This meant that Longyang had a light element divine fetus and was close to comprehending the divine steps. Most importantly, Lin Ling guessed that the current dragon lady must have another kind of divine staircase. She wanted to be like him, to have two divine staircases. Chapter 45:13. Hold on, I'll offer two treasures. The water pool sword, a second-grade chaos treasure, and the Darkeen ring, a first-grade bastard treasure that can trap people. I'll trade it for your treasure tome. What do you think? At this moment, another voice was heard. It was a man in a red immortal robe. He was also a disciple of an orthodoxy, and his name was Feng Xianyue. Moreover, he seemed to be the strongest among the disciples of the orthodoxies. Therefore, after he spoke, the disciples of the other orthodoxies fell silent. Good. The old man was overjoyed. Looking at Longyang in the distance, her dark face became even darker. However, the sacred light treasure tome was her key to becoming stronger. She had traveled a long way to get here, and she could not let it go. She came here from the bottom of the Kaiyuan River, passed by the dragon tribe, and encountered several life-threatening situations, all for the sake of the sacred light treasure tome. I'll also offer the 8 Gates golden mirror and black dragon's grasp. These are second-grade chaos treasures. Together with the time shuttle, I'll trade all 3 treasures for you. Longyang gritted her teeth and said, she had entered a secret realm under the sacred mountain and obtained some treasures. Now she was willing to throw them out. Her current strength was stronger than the young master of the Ox Demon clan, but she had not reached the strength of a deity. Therefore, she was reluctant to throw out these treasures. Is that true? The old man's heart thumped. Chaos treasures. as long as they reached this level, could affect mid-stage lower gods. Reckless woman, you insist on fighting with me. Do you really not know who I am? Or are you pretending not to know? Let's see what you have to fight with me. Feng Xianyue was furious, because after he took out the treasures, the disciples of the other orthodoxies did not dare to compete with him. On the contrary, the dark-skinned woman overestimated herself and was courting death. The 5 elements pool sword, 5 swords of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It's a set of chaos treasures. Let's not talk about ordinary mid-stage lower gods. Even powerful mid-stage lower gods would have to avoid it. Let's trade it for your treasure tome. Feng Xianyue said immediately. This. The entire island was in an uproar. The 5 elements pool sword. Feng Xianyue is actually using the treasures rewarded by the orthodoxy to trade for the treasure tome. To be able to injure a powerful mid-stage low god, I'm afraid that the sword is invincible. Currently, the strongest mid-stage low god in the void is none other than Lin Ling, the Thunder Lord of the Void of the 9 prefectures. But even Lin Ling, the Thunder Lord of the 9 prefectures, will be filled with hatred after seeing this sword. Is. She racked her brains and risked her life to come to the Kaiyuan River. But in the end, she did not obtain the Holy Light Grimoire. This made her very unwilling, but in the end, there was nothing she could do. Damn woman, say something. Why are you so quiet? You made me waste the 5 elements pool sword. You must be happy. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Feng Xianyue scolded when he saw that Long Myung was silent. He was very arrogant. He was unhappy when he saw that ugly woman. What 5 elements pool sword? How dare you be so arrogant in front of the dragon tribe? Suddenly a lazy voice said, I will use 10 chaos treasures to trade for your treasure tome. After this lazy voice, it was followed by a heroic voice that shocked the entire audience. Everyone turned to look and realized that it was that ignorant prodigal again. What the hell? That guy offended the king of medicine. Now he even dared to offend Feng Xianyue? Furthermore, it was one thing to offend him, but he was actually so arrogant. Do you want to die? Feng Xianyue obviously didn't expect that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. There was still someone who ruthlessly kicked him while he was being complacent. Don't you know that the dragon tribe likes to collect treasures? I am rich. You can boast about me. Lin Ling did not know that he was angry. He said, listen carefully. Mystical Een Beast amassing banner. Divine gold talisman. Luo Sheng exterminating 3 lives blade. Zhongyuan life shield. Lin Ling talked about the treasures one by one. There were 10 in total. Every time he said one, people's hearts jumped. The dragon tribe was really full of treasures. They did not know that these treasures were Lin Ling's own. Back then, under the sacred mountain, he killed people and stole their treasures. These treasures were as many as the hair on a cow. The treasures of the people he killed were found in the sacred mountain. But in the end, they were all taken by Lin Ling. Of course, these treasures were not of much help to Lin Ling. Middle lower gods were too weak for Lin Ling. There was no need to use these treasures. Do you want to exchange? After Lin Ling listed the 10 treasures in a domineering manner, he looked at the old man calmly. Exchange. The old man was stunned for a moment. Then, he shouted as if he was afraid that Lin Ling would go back on his words. After Lin Ling threw out the 10 treasures, he immediately threw the grimoire to Lin Ling. Then he ran away secretly. He naturally knew that a man's wealth was his own ruin. With 10 treasures, it would be strange if others were not tempted. Of course, people did not have time to pay attention to him. They were all attracted by Lin Ling's domineering aura. Then, people started to talk. This guy offended the disciples of all the orthodoxies at the same time. I really wonder how he can leave the broken Holy Land. Is the dragon tribe very strong? So arrogant? Does he think that our broken Holy Land does not exist? Don't worry. If he doesn't die, I will write my name in reverse. No one was optimistic about Lin Ling. Everyone was waiting to see a good show. What an arrogant prince dragon deity. Feng Xianyue and the king of medicine squinted their eyes. They had already regarded Lin Ling as a dead man. They even looked at each other and secretly came to an agreement to kill Lin Ling together and take the treasures on Lin Ling's body. After coming to an agreement, they laughed because the treasures that they had set their eyes on were taken away without a single cent. However, Lin Ling did not care about the various gazes on the island. Disciples of orthodoxies? He had even killed orthodoxies, let alone disciples. At most, he would kill them and take their treasures. After killing them all, he would sneak back to the void of the 9 continents. Then, Lin Ling looked at the other side of the island. He saw that Longyang had turned around and left in disappointment. Catch! Catch! Chapter 45:14. That person actually gave the precious book to her? He even offended the 10 orthodoxies for her? At this moment, she was a little dumbfounded. I don't want you to be beaten to the point where you can't even fight back when you fight with someone. So you'd better increase your strength as soon as possible. A disdainful voice quietly came from behind the grimoire. However, this voice was earth-shattering, causing Longyang to be stunned. Then, she looked at Prince Dragon God in disbelief, because she finally knew who that person was. It was Lin Ling. She never thought that Lin Ling would fight for her for the grimoire. After all, they were mortal enemies. Could it be that Lin Ling didn't know that the reason she wanted the grimoire was to kill him? At this moment, Longyang's heart was a little absent-minded. Ever since she started in the Spirit Province, she had been taking advantage of her beauty and relying on various forces to become stronger. Although she hated herself for being like this, and hated the fake smile even more, she could endure it for the sake of her goal. Moreover, she was also very clear that those who helped her were only greedy for her beauty. However, in the end they failed and were fooled by her. However, Lin Ling wasn't greedy for her beauty at all. He helped her from the bottom of his heart. Lin Ling. Yes. Longyang gritted her teeth and said. Then, she took the grimoire and suddenly turned to leave. At this moment, she didn't know whether to hate Lin Ling or thank Lin Ling. She only knew that in this world, how could there be such a foolish man? What a proud woman. Yes. Seeing Longyang leave, Lin Ling smiled faintly. He was too familiar with Longyang, so he knew that although Longyang looked like a fickle woman, she was actually a proud woman. Perhaps in her entire life, the only man who had touched her was him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have hated him for that night until now. At this moment, everyone on the island was dumbfounded. They saw Prince Dragon God give the grimoire to the black-faced woman with their own eyes. Crazy. The thoughts of a prodigal were indeed not something that ordinary people could understand. He spent 10 precious treasures just to buy a grimoire to make a beauty happy? That's not right. How is that tanned woman a beauty? She's as black as a piece of charcoal. Just one look at her, and I'll vomit last night's meal. Not only was this prodigal eccentric, even his taste in beauty was eccentric. At this moment, there was only one word in everyone's hearts: respect. When you have money, you can be willful. At this moment, Lin Ling seemed to be unaware of everyone's shock as he suddenly spoke slowly. I really want to beat him to death. Among the silent crowd, someone finally spoke up. Moreover, it was with gritted teeth. Looking at Feng Xianyu again, his face was so distorted that it was terrifying. He had never seen such an arrogant person. In order to please a black woman, he did not hesitate to offend himself. What the hell? Now, it's time for me to present my treasures. I'll take out 10 more primordial chaos treasures. If you want to trade with me, you don't have to take out any treasures. You just have to answer one of my questions. At this moment, Lin Ling stood up and spoke. His words caused the entire island to boil with excitement. Everyone had seen this prodigal young master squandering. Now they wanted to see how far he could squander. Young master, you seem to be in the martial ancestor realm. I'm afraid you want to ask me a difficult question about cultivation. Someone volunteered and spoke with a smile on his face. He was very moved by the 10 treasures. Are you an idiot? He can take out so many precious treasures, and is from the dragon tribe. If it's a problem about cultivation, the dragon tribe can't solve it? However, someone immediately scolded. 10 primordial chaos treasures. It's definitely not easy to get. What kind of problem does the dragon tribe not know? The dragon tribe has a long history, and knows everything about astronomy and geography. That's right, that's right. In my opinion, this question must be very difficult. Try your best. Everyone was in high spirits. Because it was just a question, and there was no need to trade treasures. They were naturally happy to participate. Actually, my question is very simple. I'm just asking a person. At this moment, Lin Ling spoke again. And this person should be in the broken Holy Land. Wow. Asking a person? Fuck, asking a person with 10 treasures? You're really rich and capricious. I'm good at asking people. Asking for directions? Asking the heavens and earth? None of them are difficult for me. I'm determined to get these treasures. Ha ha ha. Wow. I've seen capricious people, but it's the first time I've seen someone as capricious as you. Hurry up and ask. Yes. The island was in an uproar again, because asking this question was obviously much simpler than asking other questions. Simarawachan. If anyone knows him, these treasures will belong to him. Yes. At this moment, Lin Ling also revealed his purpose. Simarawachan? However, the people who were in high spirits instantly felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over them. They looked at each other, but they had never heard of this name. Even some seniors who had been here for more than 100,000 years were dumbfounded. Simaruadung. I know him. Young Master Dragon God, is it him? Yes. I know Oyang Rawachan. They should be relatives. Yes. What Simarawachan? I've heard of him. Voices rang out one after another. Everyone was very depressed, because this question seemed simple, but in reality, it was quite difficult. I'm Simarawachan. Please give me the treasures. Even the impostor appeared. It was an old man with a broken leg. He stood up with a cane and raised his hand. Get lost. Lin Ling looked at him, and knew that he was just making up the numbers. Huang Junkai, fellow Taoist Huang, don't pretend anymore. You want to be Simarawachan? Simarawachan is yours. The others didn't want the old man with a broken leg to be rewarded, so they immediately mocked him. Being seen through, the old man laughed dryly and sat back down. He didn't expect that if he was Simarawachan, he would be unlucky. He wouldn't be able to enjoy the treasures even if he got them. No one knows. Lin Ling looked at the bustling island with an ugly expression. Many famous people from the divine land of the Break Realm had gathered here, but no one had heard of Simarawachan. Could it be that Simarawachan had changed his name? Young Master. However, at this moment, a weak voice suddenly came. Lin Ling looked over, and found that it was the girl who had traded the ancient thunder beast. The girl looked at Lin Ling timidly. She was hiding in one of the corners of the island. If it wasn't for Lin Ling's strong soul power, he wouldn't have noticed her in such a noisy scene. I've heard of this name. I heard it from my grandfather. The girl saw Lin Ling looking over, and immediately said in a low voice, Are you sure? Chapter 45:15. All right, bring me to your grandfather immediately. Yes. Lin Ling was overjoyed. He finally found some information. Then he looked at the crowd and said, All right, since no one knows, I'll cancel the deal. Everyone go back to your own homes. Yes. What? Yes. The originally lively crowd was now completely dumbfounded. You're messing with us, right? You purposely found someone who doesn't have it, and made us guess. You. Yes. Someone pointed at Lin Ling and scolded him. You're a piece of trash. How can you blame others? Even if I did it on purpose, why don't you brag about me? Did the Divine Treasure Convention forbid this? Since I'm canceling the deal now, it's not like the Divine Treasure Convention forbids it. Lin Ling said disdainfully. That person was immediately rendered speechless. According to the rules, Lin Ling did not do anything wrong. He took out a treasure to trade, and if he did not find a suitable treasure, he could cancel the deal. There was nothing wrong with that. But you? Yes. However, the crowd's emotions had just been stirred up, and now that the deal was cancelled, they could not take it lying down. I'm rich and I can do whatever I want. If you're not convinced, bring Simarawachan out now, and I'll still give you the treasure. If you can't find him, get lost. Yes. Lin Ling's arrogance offended everyone on the island with a single sentence. Everyone's eyes were burning. rich and willful again. The dragon tribe was indeed arrogant. Ignoring the crowd's dissatisfaction, Lin Ling signaled to the light golden dragon with his eyes, and then strode away. The light golden dragon smiled excitedly. From Lin Ling's eyes, he knew that Lin Ling had found that person. However, when he left with Lin Ling, he immediately sensed many malicious gazes looking at him, including the king of medicine and Feng Xianyue. They really don't know what's good for them. Now that Lin Ling is about to find Sima Ruochen, even if the 10 orthodoxies came, he would not be afraid. These disciples of orthodoxies actually dared to provoke Lin Ling. They must be tired of living. Yes. The light golden dragon sneered inwardly. The island was still trading treasures, but many people were quietly watching the departing figure. Their eyes were cold. In their eyes, young noble dragon god was already a dead man. Even if the medicine king and the others didn't make a move, with the treasures on young noble dragon god's body, others would probably want to kill him. In fact, as they watched Lin Ling leave, many people on the island had quietly left their seats. At this moment, Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon were walking down the stairs. The two of them were talking cheerfully and wittily, as if they were very happy. And in front of them was the young girl. She was also very happy at this moment. Idiot! The news seemed to have spread to the bottom of the steps. There were some eyes staring at Lin Ling and Yi Qingyu as they walked down the steps. Those eyes were full of mockery. They all thought that Lin Ling and Yi Qingyu still didn't know that they had made a big mistake. They were laughing happily now, but they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to laugh later and would only cry. Lin Ling. However, what they didn't know was that although the light golden dragon was talking cheerfully, it had also quietly said something. Just an idiot who gave away money. Lin Ling shrugged indifferently. The two of them were veterans who had wandered the world for many years. How could they not know that they were being followed? Young noble, what idiot who gave away money? On the other hand, the young girl in front of him didn't know what was going on. She looked at Lin Ling curiously. You'll know later, Lin Ling said. And, yes, the young girl nodded. Although this was the first time she met Lin Ling and Yi Qingyu, she didn't know why, but she felt that Lin Ling and Yi Qingyu weren't bad people. The three of them finally left the steps and came to the main street. Young noble, this way. The young girl led Lin Ling and Yi Qingyu forward. However, after passing through a few streets, both sides of the street suddenly became quiet. Looking carefully, there were much fewer pedestrians. Even if there were, they were all panicking and anxiously leaving. Even the young girl was aware of this change. Young noble, something seems wrong, the young girl said worriedly. Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon glanced at each other and smiled. They had already sensed this scene a long time ago. Before they could say anything, the street in front of them had quietly changed. A colorful mist spread out and shrouded the entire street. Then, the scene of the street quietly changed and turned into a desert. A scorching sandstorm was rolling, and sand and stones were flying. This place was like purgatory on earth. Obviously, someone had used a powerful method to open a void passage and send the street to another place. And this place was one of the broken divine realms. Oh no, young noble, this is the forgotten fragment. It's over, it's over. This is one of the fragments of the divine realm. The reason why it's called the forgotten fragment is because people who come here will forget everything and be lost here forever. Next to him, the young girl panicked. It could be seen that she had been wandering the divine realm for many years, so she was familiar with the forgotten fragments. Young noble, be careful. Someone wants to harm us. Then, the young girl warned loudly. Haha, what young noble dragon god. Even a little girl is smarter than you. But you guys still haven't reacted. At this time, a sandstorm rolled in from the front. Then the sand scattered, and a group of figures finally appeared. Looking carefully, the number of people was not small. There were as many as 50 to 60 people. The two people in the lead were the Medicine King and Feng Xianyue. Other than them, there was also a disciple of the orthodoxy, who seemed to be Xing Luo. Young noble dragon god, our treasure is not so easy to take. No matter who is behind you, even if it's a dragon, in our broken divine land, You will have to obediently lie down. The Medicine King was the first to speak with a vicious expression. You dare to snatch my grimoire, and even use it to gain the favor of a woman. Motherfucker. If you were to gain the favor of a beautiful woman, I wouldn't have any objections. But you won't even let a black woman go. Are you mocking me? Tell me, how do you want to die? Feng Xianyu's face was also ferocious. Thinking that Lin Ling had given the sacred light treasure book to a black woman, he was in a bad mood. It was as if his handsome and carefree Feng Xian, you could not even compare to a black and ugly woman. It's not young noble's fault. It's me. If you guys have any grievances, just vent it on me. At this time, the young girl also spoke anxiously. She knew that the Medicine King wanted to settle the score with young noble mainly because of her. If young noble did not want the ancient lightning beast, young noble would not have offended these orthodoxy's disciples. What a useless piece of trash. You actually need a young girl to plead for you. The Medicine King snorted disdainfully. Don't worry, I will vent my anger on you. You must die, and so must they. Ah! The young girl's face instantly turned pale, as if she had lost all hope of living. Chapter 45:16. At this time, Feng Xianyue said to the people behind him, as if he had everything under control. He then looked at Lin Ling with a smile. Now, do you have anything to say? Yes. Lin Ling and the radiant golden dragon crossed their arms and watched them act. Lin Ling smiled and said to the girl, Didn't I tell you that you're a rich fool? Now you know what I mean. Yes. Yes. The girl opened her mouth wide. What did that mean? In fact, even Feng Xianyue and the others were dumbfounded. What did that mean? It's simple. Yes. Lin Ling saw that everyone was in a daze. He smiled faintly and said, Do you have any treasures on you? Yes. Of course, I'm a disciple of an orthodoxy. How can I be poor? Yes. Feng Xianyue subconsciously shouted angrily, feeling that Lin Ling was looking down on him. Feng Xianyue, don't be fooled. He asked if you have any treasures and said that you're a fool. Could it be that you're the fool he's talking about? Yes. Suddenly, the King of Medicine reacted and said with a frown, He means that he wants to steal your treasures and treats you as a fool. Yes. Bastard. Yes. Feng Xianyue was stunned and immediately shouted angrily. He was here to kill and steal, but in the eyes of the foolish young Master Dragon God, he was the fool who gave away money. These two guys were too unappreciative. You're half right. Yes. At this time, the radiant golden dragon also said with a smile. In fact, you're not the only fool who gave away money. I'm sorry. I'm talking about everyone here. Ha ha ha. Yes. At the end, the radiant golden dragon laughed. That smile was as despicable as it could be. Thank you for bringing us here. No one will know if we kill and steal. Yes. The radiant golden dragon's laughter kept floating out of his mouth. Feng Xianyue and the others were so angry that their faces were distorted. They didn't know why, but when they saw that despicable smile, they felt suffocated and wanted to tear the radiant golden dragon's mouth apart. Looking at the young girl again, she was a little dazed. What time was it now? Young Master still had the mood to joke around. Although she understood Lin Ling's intention, Lin Ling seemed to want to rob these people of their treasures. There should be a limit to his joke. With the strength of the three of them, how could they be a match for the King of Medicine's group? In terms of cultivation realm, the King of Medicine and the others were disciples of orthodoxies. In terms of numbers, the other party had dozens of gods. Even if his grandfather was here, he wouldn't be a match for them. Kill them. Cripple that bullshit young master first. After the Medicine King and the others were enraged, they finally decided to take action. They originally wanted to see Lin Ling and the others and beg for mercy, but who knew that they would be humiliated instead of seeing them? They couldn't swallow this humiliation. Young Master Dragon God, a snake is more like it. Hearing the King of Medicine's voice, all the deities rushed over. Radiant Golden Dragon, there are 52 people there. How many do you want to kill? Since the other party had already made a move, Lin Ling did not want to waste any more time. At least 30. The The radiant golden dragon licked his lips and said in high spirits, "Hee hee, I'm afraid that's very difficult. How about this? I'll let you attack first. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, I'll attack. In this way, you still have a chance to kill more than me." Lin Ling nodded. Damn it! When these words fell into the ears of Feng Xianyue and the others, they exploded with anger again, because Lin Ling actually treated them as spoils of war. Tear them into pieces. An old man was the most furious. He rushed at the radiant golden dragon with the fastest speed. Rumble! The radiant golden dragon's body exploded. Golden light shone resplendently, and he turned into a magnificent divine dragon. He stirred up the wind and sand, swallowed the clouds, and rode on the fog. The dragon's mouth spewed out all kinds of powerful energy, and shot out light pillars. Bang! Bang! Billowing sandstorm rose into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the divine dragon was in the sky, holding a corpse in its mouth. It was the old man from before. The old man was a mid-stage lower deity, but he couldn't even withstand a single blow from the radiant golden dragon. So strong, the girl couldn't believe it. It was too powerful. Moreover, this was the first time she had seen a dragon, a real dragon. Obviously, she didn't expect the radiant golden dragon to be so strong. Divine dragon tail whip. Bang! The golden dragon god in the sky swung his tail and viciously slammed it down on the next expert. He had actually smashed an early-stage low god into a pile of minced meat. Idiot who gave me money! Bang! After slapping the deity to death, the radiant golden dragon let out a disdainful voice. You're even stronger than Grandpa. Bang! Such a domineering action shocked the girl again. However, in front of her eyes, there were already experts rushing over. This made her anxious and shouted, "Young master, I'll protect you." Bang! Although she wasn't strong, she could sense that Lin Ling was even weaker. He was a martial ancestor, not even a martial god. However, just as she took a step forward, a palm pressed on her shoulder. "You watch carefully. I'll take care of them." Bang! A gust of wind blew past and Lin Ling disappeared. Bang! In front of him, blood gushed out. Lin Ling punched out and destroyed the opponent's powerful divine energy. His fist penetrated the opponent's chest, and with a boom, the deity's body exploded. He couldn't be more dead. Radiant Golden Dragon, you're too slow. Now that the time for an incense stick to burn has passed, don't blame me for not leaving any prey for you. Bang! After killing the deity, Lin Ling turned into a gust of wind and swept the remaining deities away. Bang! With another punch, a mid-stage lower deity's head exploded and he died. Bang! His leg swept out like a whip, breaking a deity's divine sword and splitting him into two. His blood dyed the desert red. With Lin Ling's current strength, there was no need for him to use his divine energy. He could crush everything with just his physical strength. This is even more abnormal. The girl was dumbfounded. She thought that the Radiant Golden Dragon was already very powerful. Who knew that the Radiant Golden Dragon was even more powerful? He was like a giant beast in human form. In fact, even the King of Medicine and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. This was also the first time they had seen such a ferocious martial ancestor. It's his physical strength. Heavens, he has a powerful physical strength. Alas! Someone shouted in panic, guessing the reason why Lin Ling was so powerful. However, what kind of physical strength could ignore the opponent's powerful divine energy and destroy the opponent's divine energy? They couldn't understand, and they didn't dare to imagine. Bang! Blood gushed out and various kinds of energy surged in all directions. The whole desert seemed to be collapsing, and yellow sand was rolling in the sky. Two figures were faintly discernible in the yellow sand. One of them was a golden dragon with a dazzling golden radiance. He looked very majestic, but the other figure was a nightmare. That was because he looked like an ordinary person, but his combat strength was so terrifying that it was impossible to see through his depth. King of Medicine and King of Medicine, why are they so powerful? Chapter 45:17. I've underestimated him. But it's strange. He seems to be a martial ancestor, but his attack and defense are so strong. His talent must be extraordinary. His cultivation is weak, but his physical strength is strong. I guess it's because of his talent. The King of Medicine and Feng Xianyue looked at each other and sneered. Although Prince Dragon Deity was more powerful than they had imagined, they were not afraid as long as he was not a deity. I'll fight Prince Dragon Deity, and you go deal with the Golden Dragon. How about it? Feng Xianyue's body was surrounded by a green wind. This wind was very demonic, like a demon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws. It's not a big problem. Looking at the King of Medicine, a plant vine appeared in her hand and wrapped around her body. Then, a ferocious Venus flytrap opened on her shoulder. Its 2 leaves were open, and the leaves were full of sharp teeth. Droplets of saliva dripped down. I hope you can kill the Golden Dragon before I kill Prince Dragon Deity, because you don't have much time left. Feng Xianyue looked at the King of Medicine and said, his voice full of confidence, "Haha, that's not necessarily true. Maybe I'll be the one watching the 2 of you slowly fight. Remember, I'll end the battle in 3 hours." The King of Medicine did not want to be outdone and replied calmly. She had heard of the Golden Dragon of Light. It was very strong, but it was still weaker than the disciples of the Orthodoxy. 3 hours. Feng Xianyue licked his lips and immediately attacked Lin Ling. A pair of green gloves appeared in his hands. His fingers were clenched tightly, and his palms were like swords. He placed them diagonally behind his back, and wherever he passed, the void seemed to be cut open. Ditches appeared out of nowhere in the desert on the ground. Crescent slash. Feng Xianyue arrived in front of Lin Ling in an instant. Then he chopped down with his palm like a huge sword. His divine power had reached 40,000, which was comparable to the strength of the sacred ancestor. Prince Dragon Deity won't die just like that, right? Sensing Feng Xianyue's terrifying attack, the King of Medicine shook his head and smiled. Rumble. However, Lin Ling raised his hand and blocked it. With a loud boom, Feng Xianyue's hand sword was blocked by Lin Ling's arm. Moreover, scales had appeared on Lin Ling's arm. Those were dragon claws, and they were the innate talents of the heavenly dragon. Now Lin Ling's Sky Dragon Bone talent had reached the level of a rank 2 intermediate god. On top of that, he had the realm-swallowing beast, which was immortal and indestructible. His physical defense had reached a terrifying level. Feng Xianyue's jaw dropped. He was extremely shocked. A single hand was enough to block his 40,000 units of divinity. Could it be that young noble dragon god hadn't used his full strength before? You're just a money-giving idiot. That's all you've got. At this time, Lin Ling raised his head and smiled. Don't be too arrogant. Feng Xianyue let out an angry roar as the wind around his body continued to swirl, emitting a buzzing sound. Lin Ling instantly sensed that when the wind blew past his body, a strange feeling was born. It was like an itch, but also like a warm feeling. Then, he noticed that his spirit energy and blood essence were continuously disappearing. When his soul power swept past, Lin Ling realized that the green wind around him was actually a mysterious insect. The insect was very small, but it had sharp teeth. When it flew past, it could bite off a martial artist's spirit energy. However, these insects only bit a small amount, so he didn't feel any pain. He just felt itchy. However, if this continued, the martial artist would definitely regret exhausting all his spirit energy. Hahaha, did you notice? It's too late to notice now. Feng Xianyue saw that Lin Ling was silent, so he said contemptuously, "This is my divine fetus talent. It's the talent of a rank 1 intermediate god." Feng Xianyue could become one of the most powerful people in the Orthodoxy. His strength was indeed not weak. Unfortunately, he met Lin Ling. Want to suck Lin Ling's spirit energy? With his 7 dantians and surging spirit energy, his body was incomparably powerful. Without a year's time, he could forget about sucking Lin Ling dry. Pung. Too lazy to explain, Lin Ling took the initiative to attack. Not bad talent. To show my respect, I'll take care of you. With a punch, a fierce physical strength erupted, forcing Feng Xianyue back. His face was ugly. At least 5 million worlds worth of physical strength. Is that so? Lin Ling sneered. The first stage of talent fusion, another punch. Rumble. Feng Xianyue retreated again. He felt a sweet taste in his throat, and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he held it back and exclaimed, "At least 6 million worlds worth of physical strength." His heart was like thunder. How could young Master Dragon God's strength still increase? Is that so? Lin Ling used the second stage of talent fusion, 7 million worlds worth of physical strength. Pooh! This time, Feng Xianyue spat out blood. When his fist collided with Lin Ling's, any divine power was shattered, and the bones in his arm also cracked. It could still increase? His heart was no longer roaring, but completely exploding. Looking at the King of Medicine in the distance, he was also shocked. He thought that 3 incense sticks of time would be enough to deal with young Master Dragon God. But now, it seemed that Feng Xianyue was completely suppressed. "You're arrogant, you're crazy enough. Let's see how long you can last." Suddenly Feng Xianyue roared. The hope in his heart was on those green bugs. Young Master Dragon God would definitely be sucked to death by him. Life return. He chanted silently in his heart, and the green wind swirled around him, feeding the essence, qi, and spirit back into his body. "Come, let's hurt each other. Let's see who can last longer." After the energy returned, Feng Xianyue had recovered somewhat, and smiled confidently. Seeing this, the corner of Lin Ling's mouth curled up. He had to admit that Feng Xianyue's talent was indeed impressive. He kept absorbing his opponent's energy, and fed it back to himself. In this way, he became stronger and stronger, while his opponent became weaker and weaker. However, Lin Ling did not say much. He raised his fist and smashed. Bang, bang, bang. At first, Feng Xianyue was still very confident, but gradually, he felt that something was wrong, because the speed of his injuries was faster than his recovery. On the other hand, young Master Dragon God's energy was being absorbed, but the more he fought, the more energetic he became. Unknowingly, 3 incense sticks of time had passed. In the eyes of the King of Medicine, Feng Xianyue's body was full of injuries, and he was in a sorry state. On the other hand, young Master Dragon God was full of energy, and there was no sign of fatigue at all. Bang! Then, under Lin Ling's punch, Feng Xianyue finally could not take it anymore, and was smashed to the ground, causing a sandstorm to rise into the sky. How can this be? Feng Xianyue kept vomiting blood and shaking his head. He could not understand at all. Because I have 7 dantians, 7 great talents. It's that simple. Lin Ling walked step by step towards Feng Xianyue, looking down at him as he spoke. How can there be such a monster? Hearing Lin Ling's words, Feng Xianyue looked as if he had seen a monster. 7 dantians? 7 great talents? What kind of remarkable ability was that? Could it be that this was the true divine talent of young Master Dragon God? Chapter 45:18. Wait! Feng Xianyue was thoroughly regretting his actions. He finally realized that the idiotic prodigal was referring to himself. Bang! Lin Ling shook his head and stomped his foot on Feng Xianyue's chest, crushing his energy center. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Feng Xianyue's mouth, reaching more than 5 meters high. Who are you? I've never seen such a powerful martial progenitor. Feng Xianyue died with his eyes wide open. If every martial progenitor was as powerful as Lin Ling, there was no need for them to cultivate. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Lin Ling exerted some force with his foot. With a loud boom, Feng Xianyue was crushed into powder. However, before he died, he could finally die in peace because of the name Lei Gong Lin Ling. He knew that his death was justified. Lei Gong Lin Ling. On the other side, the King of Medicine's expression changed drastically. Lei Gong Lin Ling was one of the 4 great deities of the 9 prefectures. His strength was comparable to that of the 10 orthodoxies. He was not someone that the disciples of the orthodoxies could afford to offend. Ironically, the orthodoxies did not go to the 9 prefectures to find trouble with Lei Gong Lin Ling. Instead, the disciples of the orthodoxies took the initiative to offend Lei Gong. Run! The King of Medicine wanted to retreat and quickly ran away. Master Lei Gong, spare my life, spare my life. I was blind to not recognize you. I hope that you can be magnanimous and spare my life. Her voice was filled with panic. There was no longer any arrogance in her voice. It was as if she had met her own master. Swoosh. However, Lin Ling's speed exploded. He arrived in front of the king of medicine in an instant, and reached out his hand. Squeak squeak. The Venus flytrap on the king of medicine's shoulder immediately protected its master. It turned into a giant mouth in the air, and was about to swallow Lin Ling. If you overestimate yourself. Lin Ling did not slow down and snorted coldly. On his shoulder, little Kunlun rushed out, and turned into countless vines that tightly bound the huge mouth. Lin Ling's arm passed through and grabbed the Medicine King's neck. Lord Lei Gong, spare my life, spare my life. The Medicine King did not dare to resist, and could only beg for mercy. In fact, after knowing Lin Ling's name, she had already lost the will to resist. Bang! Unfortunately, how could Lin Ling spare her? If she leaked the news, Lin Ling could forget about finding Sima Ruochen. Run! Once she died, the remaining people panicked. Without a leader, they fled in all directions. Of course, the radiant golden dragon wouldn't let them escape. Its dragon body swam as it slaughtered them. Lin Ling watched calmly as the radiant golden dragon made its move. He would only personally deal with the few fish that escaped the net. Blood was spilling, sand was drifting. Unknowingly, this desert had quietly turned into a purgatory. More than 50 deities and a few orthodoxy's disciples had come to kill Lin Ling and the Medicine King. Now all of them were annihilated. The radiant golden dragon had also collected the treasures on the ground and walked over with a smile. Apparently the harvest was good. Master and the others are so strong. The young girl had been quietly watching the scene. Seeing the dragon god flying in the sky, and Lin Ling walking slowly on the ground, she would never forget this scene for the rest of her life. This was the strong person she had been pursuing all her life. In the future, she wanted to become so strong that if anyone dared to bully her or kill her, she would retaliate. Alright, let's go. Lin Ling, who was walking back, smiled at the young girl. Good, good, good. The young girl's eyes were filled with admiration. Then, she followed Lin Ling through the void, and left the fragment of the realm of the gods. After passing through the void, the three of them appeared on the street again. The street was still empty. Apparently, the people nearby knew that the orthodoxy's disciples had sealed off the street, and no one was allowed to enter. Therefore, in the restaurants and inns outside the street, many people were drinking and waiting for a good show. Dragon Valley? Hee, they must have been wiped out. Someone held a wine glass, took a sip and smiled. Of course, they sent out 3 orthodoxy's disciples, and more than 50 deities. It would be strange if the 2 idiots from the dragon tribe survived. Someone laughed. Their eyes were fixed on the entrance of the street. However, at this moment a vague figure appeared. Everyone stopped eating and drinking, and looked over with smiles on their faces. However, everyone was stunned when they saw who it was. Because it was Prince Dragon God, and the others who had walked out. Bang! The person who was drinking was so shocked that he broke the wine glass in his hand. The wine spilled all over his body, but he did not feel it at all. Could it be that the orthodoxy's disciples let them go? Seeing Lin Ling, and the others walking further and further away, someone finally spoke in a panic. That should be it. More people agreed with this idea. Therefore they also waited there quietly. However, after waiting for a long time, the street was still quiet. Not to mention the orthodoxy's disciples, even the 50 deities were nowhere to be seen. As a result, a strange atmosphere suddenly spread in the restaurants and lingered in the hearts of the people. Could it be that those who went to kill Prince Dragon God were all dead? Could it be that those 2 were ferocious dragons crossing the river? At this thought, the people's faces turned even paler. At this moment, Lin Ling had finally arrived at the other side of the city under the guidance of the young girl. There were many cavern dwellings there. They looked very simple and crude. A martial artist lived in each of the cavern dwellings. They were cultivating there. However, compared to the city, the cultivation environment here was obviously much worse. Other than being safer, there was nothing good about it. At some point, it was even worse than the void of the 9 continents. Grandpa, we're back! The young girl led Lin Ling and the others to one of the cavern dwellings. Then she shouted worriedly, cough cough. An old man walked out from the cave abode. He was senile and his face was pitch black, as if he had been poisoned. But after he walked out, he looked at Lin Ling and Qin Wentian in surprise, his face full of vigilance. "Grandpa, they are good people." The young girl told the story of how she met Lin Ling. She even told the story of how Lin Ling and the others killed the orthodoxy's disciples. Lin Ling allowed the young girl to speak. This was because he knew that the old man was not as innocent as the young girl. He was guarded against people. Therefore, if he did not tell the story clearly, the old man might not help him. What? The orthodoxy's disciples were also killed? As the old man listened, his body trembled even more violently. This was because he knew how strong the orthodoxy's disciples were. They could be said to be invincible among the middle-stage lower deities. Moreover, he heard from his granddaughter that this person defeated the orthodoxy's disciples as easily as drinking water. This made him even more certain of the strength of this person. Yes, they all died tragically. They wanted to kill us, but in the end they all died. Haha, it's so satisfying, especially that king of medicine. Before he died, he panicked and kept saying, "Spare me, Lord Lei Gong. Spare me, Lord Lei Gong." When the young girl recalled the scene, she was extremely excited and emotional. "Lei Gong? You mean Lei Gong?" The old man's body trembled. He obviously knew more. Then he looked at Lin Ling in shock. One of the 4 great deities of the 9 continents, Lei Gong. Chapter 45:19. Plop. The old man immediately knelt down and almost kowtowed. Although it was his first time meeting Lin Ling, he had heard of Lei Gong's name in the godly land of the Broken Realm. He was a god, the god of Jiuzhou, one of the few who could reach the top of the pyramid among the billions of warriors in the void. The girl next to him was a little confused. Why did her grandfather have such a big reaction? "Kneel down. Kneel down." The old man did not wait for the girl to react, and pulled her to kneel down. "Get up." Lin Ling smiled and helped the old man and the girl up. The old man was shocked. He thought that Lei Gong would be difficult to talk to, and would be extremely majestic. He did not expect him to be so approachable. "Let's talk inside." Lin Ling looked at the cave and said. Then the old man led Lin Ling and the girl into the cave. The cave was very simple. A medicinal fragrance wafted out. There were a lot of elixir bottles, and an elixir furnace in the corner. The old man was also a god. After many years of cultivation, he naturally knew some alchemy skills. However, the injuries of a god could not be cured by ordinary elixirs, so the elixirs he refined could only temporarily suppress the injury. "Grandfather, the young master gave me 4 drops of jade cicada's essence. They can definitely cure your injury." The girl took out a jade bottle and smiled excitedly. Jade cicada's essence. The old man trembled. He had heard of this treasure. It was said that it only existed in the divine realm. In the current era, it was difficult to find even a drop of it. "Little Yi, why don't you thank the young master? You have met a benefactor," the old man said to the girl. Then he looked at Lin Ling gratefully. In the end, he did not know what to say. He knew very well that a big shot like Lei Gong would not care about the life and death of an insignificant person like him. His granddaughter was lucky to have met such a big shot. The young girl stared at her grandfather, who was obviously different from usual. She couldn't believe it. She suddenly asked, "Grandpa, the young master wants to know about Sima Ruochen. I heard you mention this name before." I know. Back then, I once passed through a dense forest and saw 2 strong cultivators fighting. One of them was called Sima Ruochen, and this name was called out by the other person. He seemed to be Sima Ruochen's junior brother, but there seemed to be some conflict between them. My junior brother was also killed by Sima Ruochen. If I hadn't escaped quickly, I would have been killed as well. However, I was still injured by Sima Ruochen, and I haven't recovered from that injury yet, the old man said immediately. This also made Lin Ling realize that the old man's current injuries were most likely left behind in the past. They had been suppressed by the old man for a long time, and only now had they completely erupted. "Do you know where I can find him?" Lin Ling quickly asked. As long as he killed Sima Ruochen, he would be able to obtain the key to the 8th floor of the 8 Gods' heavenly palace. He believed that no one would miss out on such news. He's in the Purging Villa, and he's the Villa Master. His name is Purging Lin, and he's also the third disciple of the desolate Yuan Orthodoxy. This Purging Villa is quite famous in the east of the city. Because Sima Ruochen is a disciple of the Orthodoxy, many people came to learn martial arts from him. The old man said, Purging Villa. Lin Ling remembered this name, and then took out many treasures to give to the old man. At first, the old man was embarrassed to accept them, but when Lin Ling mentioned the young girl, he finally accepted those treasures in order to protect his granddaughter. Lord Lei Gong. I eavesdropped on the conversation between Sima Ruochen and his junior brother. I know that Sima Ruochen is very powerful, and his strength is stronger than what he appears to be. His goal is to become an orthodoxy, and he seems to be from the era of the gods. If you want to find him, you must be careful. The old man saw that Lin Ling was about to leave. It's open, he hurriedly reminded. Thank you. Lin Ling smiled and nodded. He didn't really care. As long as he saw Sima Ruochen, he would definitely explode with the power of thunder and kill him. We killed a disciple of the Orthodoxy. Although this matter has nothing to do with you, the Orthodoxies will inevitably find trouble with you. So it's better for you to leave the broken divine land. Go to the dragon tribe and look for the old dragon god. Let him arrange for you to go to the void of the 9 states. That's my territory. In the state of the spirit, there will be people who will take care of you. If you encounter any trouble in the void of the 9 states, just say my name. Lin Ling looked at the old man and the young girl and said, Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord. The old man's eyes were moist, and he even knelt down to Lin Ling. He knew very well that if he could obtain the protection of Lord Lei Gong in the void of the 9 states, then no one would dare to provoke him in the void of the 9 states. Thank you, my lord. Thank you, my lord. The young girl's eyes were also moist. In this lifetime, she would never forget Lei Gong's great kindness. Lin Ling had already left with the golden dragon of light. According to the old man's directions, they were heading towards the Purging Manor. As long as we kill Sima Ruochen, then we have nothing to fear anymore. Even if all 10 orthodoxies come, I am confident that I can escape unscathed. Golden Dragon of Light. I have a feeling that things will be a little troublesome from now on, so you should return to the Dragon Valley first. While moving forward, Lin Ling also said to the Golden Dragon of Light, No, I promise Lord Dragon God to help you. Before you leave, I will not leave. Hearing this, the Golden Dragon of Light stubbornly shook its head and said with a smile, I know you are afraid that once the battle starts, you won't be able to take care of me. Don't worry, before I came out with you, Lord Dragon God had already given me a purple scale. If things get out of hand, I only need to crush the purple scale. This will ensure my safety. If that's the case, then all right. Lin Ling could only nod his head. Although he did not know what the purple scale was, Lord Dragon God was no fool. If he could give it to the Golden Dragon of Light so solemnly, then it must be a very good life-saving treasure. While they were heading towards the Purging Manor, the 10 orthodoxies were also in chaos. Lord Dragon God actually killed our disciple. Does he have a death wish? Moreover, Lord Dragon God even crippled our Ronger. Lord Orthodoxy, you must stand up for us. Otherwise, the dragon tribe will ride on our heads. The news of Feng Xianyue and the others' disappearance had spread to the orthodoxies. This undoubtedly caused an uproar among the 10 orthodoxies. The orthodoxies' faces were also cold, because this matter was a slap to their faces. If they did not do anything, others would think that the 10 orthodoxies were afraid of the dragon tribe. Find them and seal the shattered divine land. Ask the immortal spirit hegemony nation for help. We must make those 2 stay. A dignified voice was heard. The 10 orthodoxies were furious. They wanted to turn the entire shattered divine land upside down, to find Lord Dragon God and his disciple. They wanted to see if their courage was greater than the heavens. Chapter 45:20. We're here. At this time, the light golden dragon beside him smiled and spoke. Below the mountains, a magnificent villa was built along the mountain. This villa was obviously old, ancient and fragrant. Wisps of mist spread out from the mountain, It was very beautiful. At the entrance of the villa, people were entering one after another. Most of them were youths. They seemed to have come because of the villa's reputation, wanting to enter the villa to learn martial arts. However, these youths were not weak either. They were all martial progenitors, and even had divine fetuses. From this point, it was clear that the godly land of Broken Domain was several times stronger than the 9 states void. Of course, this was normal. After all, the godly land of Broken Domain was the descendant of the gods during the Age of Gods. It seems that it's time for the disciple selection. Floating in the distant sky, the light golden dragon suddenly frowned and said. Lin Ling looked at the magnificent villa indifferently. He quietly activated his soul power and wraith jellyfish, enveloping the villa, wanting to find Sima Ruachin within. Whoosh! 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 The wraith jellyfish flew around the mountain and hid in the dark, eavesdropping on the conversations of passers-by. This time, Villa Lord Shi is recruiting disciples again. TSK, if we can enter the villa, then we will have a chance to meet the Lord of the Orthodoxy. Yes. However, Villa Lord Shi is very strict in recruiting disciples. They don't look at strength or cultivation, only talent. I heard that if one has mid-god talent, then they can meet Villa Lord Shi directly. TSK, this old man is a disciple of the Orthodoxy. Yes. After searching for a while, Lin Ling did not see Villa Lord Shi. He simply recalled his wraith jellyfish, and chose to use his soul power to investigate. In the magnificent villa, there were many powerful people. There were several mid-low god and 3 late-low god. Therefore, Lin Ling's soul power locked onto these 3 people. These 3 people were 2 old men and a middle-aged man. It seemed that the middle-aged man was most likely Sima Ruachin. However, the Xianyuan treasure book had left Lin Ling with all the information about Sima Ruachin. However, Lin Ling could not detect anything related to Sima Ruachin from the middle-aged man. On the contrary, the 2 old men were very respectful to the middle-aged man and called him Villa Lord. Could it be that I got the wrong person? Or Sima Ruachin has cultivated a powerful concealment technique and blocked my detection? But that's not right. Xianyuan Bao told me that Sima Ruachin has a mysterious aura. It's hard for concealment techniques to hide, unless Sima Ruachin is beyond the Xianyuan treasure book's control. Or he have a concealment technique. Lin's. He didn't expect Sima Ruachin to be so cunning and hide it so well. After that, Lin Ling entered the square prison and asked the Xianyuan treasure book. The Xianyuan treasure book was silent for a moment before telling Lin Ling that the middle-aged man was Sima Ruachin's puppet. This was a type of puppet technique, which was a secret technique of the Xianyuan clan. Lin Ling nodded after getting the affirmation from the Xianyuan treasure book. He knew that he had to find a way to lure Sima Ruachin out. Lord Prison Lord. This cunning Sima Ruachin obtained the Xianyuan treasure ruler. This ruler can graft divine fetuses and improve one's cultivation. His purpose of accepting disciples was not to teach them martial arts, but to refine those juniors with powerful divine fetuses. You said that the middle-aged man was a low-level divine fetuses. The cultivation of late-stage low god? I was already surprised because Sima Ruachin had been crippled back then. His doppelganger and puppet couldn't possibly have reached the strength of a late-stage low god in such a short time. After all, it takes 100,000 years for a god to make a breakthrough. The Xianyuan treasure book said again. In that case, I have a way to lure him out. Hearing this, Lin Ling had an idea. Since Sima Ruachin liked to refine other people's divine fetuses, he just needed to show his powerful divine fetuses to lure the latter out. Bright golden dragon, let's go down. After retreating from the square prison, Lin Ling smiled at the bright golden dragon. The latter was still staring at the square prison's stone tablet in shock. However, he did not dare to ask and followed Lin Ling down to the ground. Lin Ling also told him his purpose. So that's how it is. The bright golden dragon nodded. Looking at talent, Lin Ling had 2 mid-god divine fetuses. Who could compare to him in this area? Moreover, he reckoned that Lin Ling had more than 2 mid-god divine fetuses. The 2 walked side by side. They were getting closer and closer to the purging dust manor. Up ahead, they could hear the noise of bustling noise. I have a 5th grade lower god divine fetus. I can definitely enter the purging dust manor. You dare to be proud of this little talent? I have an 8th grade lower god divine fetus now. Izilong, when did your talent increase? You must know that increasing the divine fetus is much harder than increasing one's cultivation. Before they even reached the main gate, the young elites were already fighting fiercely. The one who shouted that he had an 8th grade lower god divine fetus had undoubtedly attracted countless gazes. An 8th grade divine fetus was already an incomparably rare talent. Entering the purging dust manor was something that was set in stone. Out of the way, an 8th grade divine fetus dares to be arrogant? Without a 10th grade lower god fetus, all of them are clay chickens and pottery dogs. But at this moment, the sound of galloping horse hooves could be heard. Then, a cloud of dust could be seen behind them as a large group of experts wearing armor galloped over. Everywhere they passed, they were incomparably domineering. The leader of the group was an old man with a flaming whip in his hand. When he swung it, the people in the middle of the road were swept away, smashing into the ground and spitting out blood. It's Lei Yujo of the Immortal Spirit Hegemony country. His father is one of the 7 divine generals of the Immortal Spirit Hegemony country. He's here. 3 years ago, Lei Yujo said that he wanted to enter the purging dust manor. He must have come for the lightning heaven-breaking technique. Seeing the group of tyrannical cavalry, the faces of the youths lining up in front of the manor changed, and they quietly made way for them. The Immortal Spirit Hegemony Nation was a friendly nation of the 10 sections. Because of the close relationship between the primogenitor and the 10 sects, the 10 sects gave them face and allowed them to come and go as they pleased. Haha, this time, I want to see the manor lord and take him as my teacher. Among the cavalry, a handsome youth laughed loudly. He wore a white suit of armor and looked wise and mighty. He was a dragon amongst men. However, he was relatively young, so his current strength was only at the martial god realm. Of course, compared to others of the same age, his cultivation level was clearly higher by a large margin. The old man who was opening the way for him constantly swung his flaming whip, even though there was no one blocking the way. In order to display the might of a young master, he continued to swing his whip. The crackling sounds came from all around, as if he was setting off firecrackers. Chapter 45:21. What kind of trash are you? You actually dared to whip me. Looking at the person who made the move, he was incomparably powerful, and his voice was filled with disdain. Who are you? Do you want to die? Men, kill him. Lei Yujo had come here with pride, but now that he had lost face, how could he swallow this anger? With a wave of his hand, the cavalry behind him charged towards that person. Get out of here. However, that person roared angrily and released his dragon breath. All the divine horses were so frightened that they raised their front hooves, and the experts on the horses also fell to the ground. Dragon Clan. This scene caused many people to be extremely shocked. Lei Yujo's face also changed. Why did he run into the Dragon Clan? However, although the Dragon Clan was powerful, they had never dared to provoke the Immortal Spirit Nation. Dragon race. How dare you? Did the dragon god of your dragon race eat shit? Or did he die? He didn't keep an eye on you dogs, and let you dogs bite people everywhere. Lei Yujo pointed at the man and cursed. You can scold me, but scold our Lord Dragon God. That person's face instantly turned ugly, and he wanted to attack again. I'll do it. However, someone suddenly walked out from behind him. It was Lin Ling. Then he pounced towards Lei Yujo. Lei Yujo looked at him with disdain and said to his mount, "Kick him to death." His mount was a divine flood dragon called the Fengtian Divine Chariot. It was the offspring of a flood dragon and a divine horse, and its power was terrifying. Lululu. The mystical horse looked thin and weak, but its muscles and bones were like iron. When it heard its master's words, it suddenly raised its legs and stared fiercely at Lin Ling, its eyes as red as blood. This divine steed was different from the other divine steeds. It was a carnivore, as if it wanted to eat the person who came. The ferocious aura seemed to cover the sky and the earth. It immediately caused the people in the distance to tremble and panic in their hearts. However, whether it was a divine chariot or a godly dragon, they were nothing in front of Lin Ling. Lin Ling leaped high into the air and struck down with his palm. Bang! The sturdy divine chariot's bones trembled as it was smashed into meat paste. Wow! Such a bloody scene made some of the youths who had just started practicing martial arts vomit in fright. Lei Yuzhou, who was sitting on the divine chariot, fell to the ground. His expression changed drastically. His divine chariot was not even afraid of deities. How could it be killed with a single blow? He rolled and crawled, trying to stand up, but a foot quickly landed on his body, stomping him into the ground. Apologize and you won't die. A cold voice drifted into his ears at the same time, causing him to turn around and find that it was the young man in the blue and white robe. My father is the divine commander of the immortal spirit nation. You dare to ask me to apologize? Aren't you afraid you won't be able to leave this godly soil? Although Lei Yuzhou was afraid of Lin Ling's strength, his background was not small, so his bones were very tough. How could the descendant of a divine general beg for mercy so easily? The divine marshal of the immortal spirit empire? Lin Ling laughed. If he remembered correctly, he, Lin Ling, had killed millions of soldiers from the immortal spirit nation in the Xi'er cave. How dare a mere descendant of a divine commander act so arrogantly in front of him? What? Are you afraid? Lei Yuzhou sneered when he saw that Lin Ling was only smiling without speaking. Afraid? Lin Ling shook his head. He humiliated the dragon god. And now he only asked Lei Yuzhou to apologize. Yet he was still so arrogant? I'm not afraid of anyone here. At least, in this void, no one can make me afraid. Lin Ling said indifferently. How arrogant. Everyone in the distance sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. What kind of courage did he have to say such words? After all, not to mention the entire void, even the experts of the purging dust manor, were enough to make this arrogant young man suffer. Haha, what a joke, what a joke. You're indeed a frog at the bottom of a well. Lei Yuzhou laughed mockingly. Frog at the bottom of a well? Lin Ling did not bother to say more, because he was already in the sky. What was the point of looking at the sky? He stomped his foot, and with a crack, the armor on Lei Yuzhou's arm shattered, followed by the bones in his arm. His entire arm went limp like a pile of mud. Laugh. Can you still laugh now? Ah. Lei Yuzhou let out a painful cry, and the soldiers around him also roared. However, their young master was already under someone's foot, so they did not dare to act rashly. I'm not interested in explaining anything to an ant like you. Now apologize. Lin Ling said coldly, and raised his foot again. Apologize, I apologize. Lei Yuzhou could only swallow the humiliation and said with gritted teeth. I was wrong. I shouldn't have humiliated the dragon god. Compared to the dragon god, I'm just a fart. Louder. Lin Ling shouted again. Damn it. Lei Yuzhou did not expect that he would end up like this. He shouted. I was wrong. I shouldn't have humiliated the dragon god. Compared to the dragon god, I'm just a fart. His voice was like thunder, spreading everywhere. People did not expect the blue-robed young man to be so arrogant. If he was not convinced, he would beat him until he was convinced. It's him. Among the crowd, a few people's pupils constricted. The one leading them was young Master Rong, who was crippled by Lin Ling not long ago. Because he heard that the manor lord had the ability to restore people's dantian, he came here out of admiration. Who knew that he would meet young Master Dragon God again? The orthodoxies are all looking for young Master Dragon God. Who knew that they would come here? Hurry! Hurry and inform the master. Hurry! The people around young Master Rong were secretly delighted, but young Master Rong's eyes were red. This time, that arrogant young Master Dragon God is dead for sure. Of course, in front of the future strength of the strong, he did not dare to be arrogant, because he also saw how young Master Dragon God crippled people without a word. He was very arrogant. Enough. Do you think the washing dust manor is your Dragon Valley? Doing whatever you want here, you have no respect for your elders. Hurry. At this time, several strong people walked out of the manor. The one leading them was a tall woman, very strong, with the strength of a god. Her appearance was delicate and pretty, but she had a dignified aura, which made it difficult for people to approach her. She was one of the teachers of the washing dust manor, called Teacher Xiao. Previously, she saw that there was a lot of noise outside the manor, so she brought the teachers out, and then she saw this scene. Of course, the blue-robed young man's arrogance was one thing, but he also said that in this void, there was no one who could make him afraid. He was simply a frog at the bottom of a well, short-sighted. Those who learned martial arts hated this kind of arrogant people the most. What, I can't fight and kill outside the manor? Lin Ling looked up and said indifferently to the woman. You still dare to talk back? Teacher Xiao was stunned. She did not think that Lin Ling would dare to be so arrogant to her. He humiliated our Dragon Valley. So this is our Dragon Valley's matter. Could it be that your manor also wants to interfere with Dragon Valley's matters? Chapter 45:22. Fine, I don't care. However, you must be here to learn from a master. Don't think that just because you come from the Dragon Valley, you can enter the Cleansing Dust Villa. Our Cleansing Dust Villa looks at character, not origin. You will be eliminated. Teacher Xiao fiercely said. Haha, not looking at origin, why didn't you high and mighty people come and teach this trash a lesson before? However, Lin Ling's next sentence left Teacher Xiao and the others speechless once more. If Lei Yuzhou didn't have a great background, would he dare to be so tyrannical? Thus, Teacher Xiao's words were like slapping their own faces. You have a sharp tongue. With your personality, you won't go far on the martial path. Remember, there is always someone better. Not to mention our Cleansing Dust Villa. Do you know the 10 orthodoxies? Do you know the experts of the Immortal Spirit Kingdom? Have you been to the other side of the Kaiyuan River? There is the 9 provinces void there. There are 4 gods. The Kirishin, the Titanic Crescent God, Eugene, and the youngest Lei Gong. If these people were in front of you, would you dare to say you aren't afraid? Not to mention the Spirit Kingdom, and the U-Continent Divine Ruler. Haha. I know you won't believe anything I say right now, but I can tell you that you will only be like this for the rest of your life. If I am wrong in the future, you can come find me at any time. If you want me to apologize, I won't refuse. Teacher Xiao couldn't swallow this anger and shouted. A true martial artist, a true genius, is humble and polite, avoiding arrogance and impatience. The current number 1 genius of the void, Lei Gong Lin Ling, has this temperament because the embryo
which is
died
why
in
he
the womb.
became a god that
It turned
cannot
into
be
this kind of
underestimated
stone
at such a young
It can
age.
be used to assess one's
One of them,
talent
compared to him.
Remember,
you are
one
nothing.
is being assessed this time as talent,
When she
not
mentioned
strength.
Lei Gong,
Having
a
strength
trace of
doesn't
worship
mean you
appeared
can
in
enter the
Teacher
purging
Xiao's
dust
eyes.
villa. In the depths
The old
of her
man
eyes,
looked majestically
there was
at
even
the
a
crowd.
trace of yearning.
Of course,
a yearning
most
to
of his
see Lei
attention
Gong
was
still
glory
on
with
Lin
her
Ling.
own eyes.
Before
Lin
Lin
Ling's
Ling's
strength
was
strong,
she also knew that
but
the
that didn't mean
possibility
his
of this
talent
was
was
very
higher
low.
than Lei Yuzhou's.
After all,
Therefore,
Lei Gong,
Lin
and
Ling
the
couldn't
godbreak
escape
domain
the
were
fate of
people of
being
2 different
eliminated.
universes. One by one.
Lei Gong Lin Ling,
Remember, Those
Hearing
with the
that,
lesser
the
gods
radiant
divine
golden
embryo
dragon
of the
was
fifth rank
flabbergasted.
can enter our
This stern
purging
teacher
dust villa
actually used
to practice
Lin Ling
martial
to
arts.
teach Lin Ling a
Our
lesson.
villa has many
He
divine
almost laughed
abilities.
out loud.
We don't
Lin
need to
Ling
say
shook
more.
his head.
You should all know.
You're right.
But
And
I
those
hope you
below
won't
the
be too
fifth rank,
excited when you
then
see
I'm
me
sorry,
become a god
we
in the
won't
future.
accept anyone.
You, following
Teacher
the
Xiao
old
laughed
man's final
disdainfully.
words.
The
The
other
youths went
teachers
to touch
also
the
laughed
crystal embryo
disdainfully.
stone one
They
after
didn't think
another.
highly of Lin Ling's
Fourth-rank
future
divine
at all.
embryo fail.
All right,
Don't
don't waste
waste
your
divine
breath on
embryo
him.
fail.
Let's start the
Fifth
review.
rank divine
An
embryo
old man
fail.
said faintly.
The old man
with a wave of
continued
his
to
right
shout.
hand, and after
A
the
crystal
last
rock
word,
the size
the
of a small
eliminated
mountain
youth's
floated
face
down
changed
from
greatly.
the villa.
I
This
have
is
a
a
fifth-rank
crystal
divine
embryo
embryo.
stone.
Why did I fail?
It is the undeveloped
I said
talent
before
of a
that
high
those
god's
with the
fifth-rank
fifth-rank
divine embryo can enter the purging dust villa. But that's just barely enough. If your temperament and character aren't up to par, as teachers, we have the right to eliminate you. If you want to have 100% chance of entering, you need to be at least a 7th rank. The old man said expressionlessly. Ah. Without a doubt, the youth's face instantly dimmed. 6th rank divine embryo, very rare lightning element talent pass. 8th rank divine embryo, although it's the most common water element talent, it can pass. Tisk TSK, 9th rank divine embryo pass. You have the chance to see the villa head. Next, the old man looked at the crystal embryo stone and continued to speak. As for the youths who were accepted, they were so excited that their faces turned red, and their words became incoherent. The youths this time all have pretty good talent. A 9th rank divine embryo actually appeared. If they're nurtured well, they'll definitely be able to see the orthodoxy's lord in the future. The teachers were whispering to each other. At this time, Lei Yuzhou suddenly walked out and stopped not far from Lin Ling. He looked at Lin Ling arrogantly and said, Dragon Valley guy, you're awesome, you're fierce, you're strong. But let me tell you, this is a test of talent, not strength. Based on talent, I'm going to crush you and kick you out of the purging dust villa. Everyone's attention was instantly attracted, but they were unanimously xenophobic and gloating over Lin Ling's misfortune. After all, Lin Ling was a member of the dragon tribe, not a member of the broken Holy Land. Naturally, they hoped that Lei Yuzhou would crush Lin Ling. Then Lei Yuzhou strode forward, came to the crystal embryo stone, and slammed his palm hard. An incomparably bright light bloomed. 1st rank divine embryo of a mid-god. When this light bloomed, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A mid-god divine embryo. Without a doubt, this person would be a deity in the future, and would become a famous person in the void. Like father, like son. Yes, an old man exclaimed in admiration. As expected of the son of a divine general, this Lei Yuzhou is qualified to meet the villa master. TSK, a mid-god divine embryo. Our purging dust villa hasn't seen one for many years. Teacher Xiu's face was also full of smiles. His eyes suddenly looked towards Lin Ling. Lin Ling had spoken arrogantly before, so he should feel inferior now. Don't think that a moment of strength means everything. Lei Yuzhou could surpass him at any time. Lei Yuzhou naturally looked at Lin Ling proudly. A mid-god divine embryo was extremely rare. He knew this very well. He didn't believe that this arrogant young man also had such talent. Why don't you dare to speak? If you can surpass me, I'll eat that pile of rotten meat on the spot. Lei Yuzhou said proudly to Lin Ling in order to regain his lost face. He was referring to the divine chariot that Lin Ling had killed. That divine chariot had turned into a pile of rotten meat. Chapter 45-23. After saying this, Teacher Xiu turned around. To the washing dust villa. To be able to receive a god with a divine embryo this year was already the greatest harvest. The others weren't worth mentioning, and were dispensable. Under her voice, the people who were accepted all smiled excitedly, and followed Teacher Xiu into the villa. Wait, I want to ask, how do you all become teachers? Since you can't treat everyone equally, why would you want to be a teacher? Why not be a dog? Because dogs look down on people. Yes, but at this time, Lin Ling also spoke up. With one sentence, he compared all the teachers to dogs. At this moment, everyone turned around to look at Lin Ling, tongue-tied and in disbelief. This dragon fellow actually dared to compare the villa's teachers to dogs? This was because he was eliminated, so he flew into a rage out of humiliation. What are you saying? All the teachers' faces were ashen, their anger rising. What are you trying to say? Do you know that with your words, you've already humiliated our villa? If you don't apologize, I can guarantee that you'll regret coming here. Teacher Xiao also looked at Lin Ling sternly, as if her patience with Lin Ling had run out. What I want to say is, what does your washing dust villa do? Could it be that it's a tourist attraction? Lin Ling ignored the various gazes of the crowd and said indifferently, tourist attraction? Some people heard this and almost laughed until their stomachs hurt. This guy really dared to speak. You dare? Contrary to the crowd, Teacher Xiao couldn't hold it in anymore and wanted to do something. But at this time, Lin Ling spoke again. Answer me, what does the washing dust villa do? And what do you all do? Hearing that tone, not only was there no guilt, there was no panic. Instead it was as if he was interrogating. If they didn't know Lin Ling's background, they would have thought he was some kind of god. Good. Teacher Xiao was so angry that she laughed. Her jade-like hands behind her back were already preparing a powerful attack. However, in the end, she still did not make a move. However, this did not mean that she was afraid of anything. Because with Lin Ling humiliating the villa, it would be difficult for Lin Ling to escape today. The reason why he didn't make a move was because he wanted to let Lin Ling know the reason behind his death. Our washing dust manor is a legacy of the Tao. We are responsible for guiding the masses and imparting martial arts. As the manor's teachers, our responsibility is to guide the rising stars of the younger generation, to help the godly land of the broken realm unearth talents. I've finished speaking. I don't know if you have any other opinions. As soon as Teacher Xiao finished speaking, he stretched out his hand and was about to teach Lin Ling a lesson. Since you are in charge of guiding the rising stars, I would like to ask, why didn't I take the test this time, and you all returned to the villa? Could it be that because I made a move in front of the villa's gate, you all have a problem with me and decided not to take the test? But this is a dog looking down on people. You all can't treat everyone equally. Why do you need to be teachers? Putting the word teacher on you all would only blind the light of a teacher. Lin Ling acted as if he didn't see Teacher Xiao make a move and leisurely said, moreover, you want to teach me a lesson? I can guarantee that if you make a move, the one to suffer would be you. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was speechless. Teacher Xiao's eyes trembled. He couldn't care less about Lin Ling's arrogant words. Instead, he was unable to refute what Lin Ling said. The group of teachers' faces were also distorted, although they hated Lin Ling to death. But Lin Ling's words were indeed correct, because they indeed did not treat everyone equally. This meant that in front of the manor's gate, they couldn't make a move against Lin Ling. What a cunning mouth! Teacher Xiao cursed in his heart and retracted his palm attack. Just as he was about to speak, Lin Ling once again slowly spoke. Also, why is it that after Lei Yuzhou's talent assessment, the disciple recruitment process ended? As for me, no one even looked at me. This is too unfair. Could it be that having a god embryo has some other meaning? As soon as Lin Ling's words fell, the manor fell silent for a moment. Following that, earth-shattering laughter rang out. Unfair? To say that it's unfair to a genius with a god embryo. This is a joke. A god embryo 1 in 10,000. Even in the god realm of the past, it was a rare existence, not to mention the current era. This kind of dragon amongst men. A mere dragon clan youth wanted to compete with him on fairness? In reality, not to mention the godly land. Even in the 9 continents, there weren't many people with a god embryo. No wonder the Purging Dust Manor placed so much importance on Lei Yuzhou. Even 3 years ago, the Purging Dust Manor already knew of Lei Yuzhou's talent. In fact, they had been waiting for Lei Yuzhou's arrival. It doesn't matter, Yang Qi said. If you have a common godly divine embryo, you'll be able to meet with the Manor Lord directly. In fact, he might even be able to take you to one of the Taoist doctrines. Teacher Xiao indifferently said. If not for Lin Ling's earlier words being reasonable, she wouldn't have bothered to speak. However, she believed that after her words, if Lin Ling had self-awareness, he would run away with his tail between his legs. Haha, nonsense. You're the one who's nonsense. Lin Ling smiled. Now, although Lei Yuzhou has a god embryo, it doesn't mean that he has the qualifications to meet the Manor Lord. At least, I haven't shown my talent yet. Who knows? Maybe the one to meet the Manor Lord will be me. Ha ha ha. Those who originally thought that the farce was over, after hearing Lin Ling's words, finally burst into laughter. They couldn't hold it in any longer, because they thought that Teacher Xiao had already explained the situation clearly, and Lin Ling would know his own limits. Who knew that Lin Ling actually wanted to show off his talent? From the looks of it, he wanted to compete with Lei Yuzhou. Haha, since that's the case, then let's go with his wishes. At this time, Lei Yuzhou suddenly opened his mouth and excitedly said, "Who knows, maybe this young master from the Dragon Clan is the true son of a god. The Purging Dust Manor can't miss out on such a talent." That's right, that's right. The way I see it, the one to meet the Manor Lord in the end might be this young master from the Dragon Clan. The youth beside him also burst into laughter. Of course, their words were sarcastic. They didn't think that Lin Ling had a god embryo. After all, if a random person had a god embryo, then this kind of talent was too much of a cabbage. Moreover, according to what they knew, among the younger dragon deities, there was only one who had a god embryo. It seemed to be called the Radiant Golden Dragon. Most importantly, there were people present who recognized the Radiant Golden Dragon. They were certain that it wasn't the guy who had spoken such arrogant words. Chapter 45-24. Teacher Gu, please take out the crystal embryo stone again. Teacher Xiao said to an old man next to him. Okay. The old man nodded and stared at Lin Ling. He snorted and waved his hands to take out the crystal embryo stone. Obviously, he had to spend a lot of energy to take out the crystal embryo stone. And it was all because of Lin Ling. This hateful Dragon Clan kid was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree, or a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Let's see how he will explain himself when he fails. Bang! The huge crystal stone fell from the sky, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Then, it lay quietly in front of the villa. At this moment, everyone revealed a gloating smile. Among everyone, only the bright golden dragon clenched his fists. At this moment he suddenly felt excited. The godly land of the broken domain had always looked down on the dragon race. Now Lin Ling was going to give them a slap in the face. This would also raise the prestige of the dragon race, especially when he thought about how Lei Yuzhou had scolded the Dragon Clan. Now, the Dragon Clan was going to give Lei Yuzhou a slap in the face. Such a scene was undoubtedly very satisfying. Compared to the bright golden dragon's excitement, Lin Ling's reaction was very calm. He had been arrogant before, but not because he wanted to prove himself. In fact, he did not have the time to compete with these small fries. His purpose was to attract Sima Ruochen's attention. Now he had achieved his goal. All that was left was to show his talent. Lin Ling walked steadily to the crystal embryo stone and slowly stretched out his hand. At this moment, his face was as calm as an ancient well, as if he was doing the most normal thing. However, in the eyes of the people, Lin Ling was obviously guilty, because if Lin Ling really had some powerful talent, he would be very excited and eager to show it. How could he maintain his calmness? It's hard to stop halfway. Haha, he's been too pretentious. Someone laughed gloatingly. However, when Lin Ling's hand touched the crystal embryo stone, a strong light bloomed, and the dragon's power soared to the sky. Boom! The mountain-like crystal embryo stone shook violently, and an ancient dragon aura gushed out from the stone. Those who were close to the crystal embryo stone all trembled, as if they had seen the most ancient dragon god. Such might was simply comparable to the Thunder Universe. Mid-God Divine Embryo. The group of teachers pointed at the crystal embryo stone. Speaking incoherently, their faces flushed red. One must know that Mid-God Divine Fetus was 1 in 10,000, especially among the younger generation. This could be seen from the Dragon Clan. In the entire Dragon Valley, there was only one radiant golden dragon. And now, yet another dragon youth possessed a god-level divine embryo. At this moment, the entire villa was silent. Everyone's mouths were wide open, and their faces were filled with shock. Most importantly, this result came too suddenly, very suddenly. What the hell is going on? This piece of trash is also a godly embryo. Lei Yuzhou was undoubtedly the angriest. He felt disgusted as if he had swallowed a fly. He had thought that he was the only one who could see the Manor Lord, and he would enjoy all the glory today. However, someone else had to share his pride. Teacher Xiao's delicate face was filled with embarrassment. In fact, she had never liked Lin Ling. She thought that Lin Ling bullied the weak, just because he had some strength. Therefore, she had always wanted Lin Ling to see reality clearly. She was even prepared to teach Lin Ling a lesson, if his performance was ordinary. However, she was obviously disappointed. Not only could she not teach Lin Ling a lesson, but now she had to respect Lin Ling even more, because Lin Ling was very likely to see the Manor Lord. Teacher Xiao, now that there is one more god-level divine embryo, which one of us is going to see the Manor Lord? Lei Yuzhou gritted his teeth and asked Teacher Xiao. The one with the highest talent will go. You are on the same level as him. Both of you, go together. Teacher Xiao looked at Lin Ling with a frown and said awkwardly. Moreover, she saw that Lin Ling was looking at her. Although he looked calm, she did not know why his calm face seemed to be mocking her. Therefore, she did not dare to look at Lin Ling. Together? Lei Yuzhou frowned and said, everything is first come, first served. Although he is on the same level as me, I have shown my talent before him. He is the second, so he has to go after me. He had been beaten up by Lin Ling, and had lost to Lin Ling. Therefore, no matter what, he wanted Lin Ling to be below him, so that he could regain his lost face. Who said that you are on the same level as me? You are just a junior. You don't deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as me. However, Lin Ling said disdainfully as soon as Lei Yuzhou finished his words. His words shocked the cleansing dust villa once again. Everyone's mind was filled with the word, not worthy. What an arrogant tone. I don't deserve it. Lei Yuzhou sneered. This young master of the dragon clan was on the same level as him. What right did he have to say such words? Boom. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the crystal embryo stone shook violently again. Then, an endless amount of dragon might shot into the sky and condensed into a lifelike dragon god in the sky. This dragon god shone with Buddhist light, and was sacred and majestic. Waves of the most ancient dragon god's aura spread out, and shocked the entire divine land. Plop. Some of the weaker people did not retreat, but fell to the ground in shock. Their faces were extremely pale. At least a second-grade divine embryo. An old man's legs gave way, and he fell to the ground in fright. As a teacher, he was scared out of his wits. This was because a second-grade divine embryo was even rarer. It could be said that in the entire broken divine land, there were less than 20 people with such talent. This meant that this young master of the dragon clan would not only become a god in the future, but also an outstanding god. Silence. The purging dust manor was dead silent. This kind of silence had not appeared for millions of years. The young men were terrified. The teachers were in awe. Teacher Xiao was speechless. Now did she still have the right to reprimand Lin Ling? No, not at all. Haha. Among everyone, only the radiant golden dragon was smiling. He was smiling with incomparable excitement, because this was the first time the light of the dragon race had shone on the godly land of the broken realm. No one dared to underestimate the Dragon Valley anymore. Unfortunately, it was only in the Purging Dust Manor. If only the light of the dragon clan shone on the entire broken divine land. Tell me, do you deserve it? In the silence, Lin Ling looked at Lei Yuzhou and asked. His gentle question was like a loud slap to Lei Yuzhou's face. In terms of talent, what could Lei Yuzhou compare to? Lin Fan had 2 talents. Even the weakest talent was on par with him. One of them far surpassed him. I don't deserve it. Lei Yuzhou gritted his teeth. Although he did not want to admit it, he knew that he did not deserve to be compared to Lin Ling. Chapter 45-25. His words were as arrogant and domineering as ever. However, even if the people were unhappy, they did not dare to object on the surface, because they all knew that in terms of talent, None of them were worthy. Now can I go and see the manor lord? Lin Ling spoke again. Yes, this time, it was Teacher Xiao who spoke. She was no longer as high and mighty as before. Instead, her tone was a little low. Rare. He has excellent talent and strength. The most important thing is that he has a fearless fighting spirit. Unfortunately, this kind of fighting spirit is a bit too much. If he is too fearless, he will bully others and look down on everyone. But in general, he is still a very good seedling. He should be focused on cultivating. Now come and see me. At this moment, a faint voice suddenly rang out and spread throughout the entire purging manor. Manor Lord. Teacher Xiao and the others all bowed towards the sky with a look of worship. Without a doubt, Lin Ling's fanfare, coupled with the display of the twin dragon god's talent, had completely alarmed the Manor Lord. Manor Lord Shi. The youths were terrified because Manor Lord Shi was a disciple of an orthodoxy. In the Holy Land of Breakage, he could be said to be above everyone else. Ordinary people were not qualified to hear his voice, and now they had all heard it. If they returned home and told others about this, they would be envious. One must know that in the Holy Land of Breakage, orthodoxies were the most difficult to meet. Basically, one could only hear their name and not see them in person. Disciples of orthodoxies might be fated to meet them, but it also depended on seniority. For an ancient orthodoxy like Manor Lord Shi, his level of mystery was only below that of orthodoxies. You barely qualified. While everyone was shocked and envious, suddenly, an unsurprising voice rang out. It was Lin Ling again. Ah, everyone's jaw dropped. Barely qualified? Was he talking about Manor Lord Shi? He Dragon Clan kid, you're talking about me? Even the Manor Lord seemed to be very surprised. Of course, because only you are barely qualified to speak to me. Lin Ling raised his head and said. And that was indeed the case. According to seniority, Lin Ling was Lei Gong. Only the 10 orthodoxies and Xian Wuba were qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as him. As for Sima Ruochen, if it weren't for his age, he wouldn't even be qualified. This brat is so arrogant that he's about to defy the heavens. After hearing Lin Ling's words, many people were so shocked that they almost fainted, because even Manor Lord Shi was barely qualified. Could it be that only orthodoxies were qualified? Of course, they all thought that Lin Ling was bragging. It was just that Lin Ling was strong and talented, so no one dared to laugh at him. What an interesting kid. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Teacher Xiao, bring him in. I'll let him know if I'm worthy or not. A loud laugh was heard. Manor Lord Shi did not seem to be angry. Instead, his heart was moved. Please come with me. Teacher Xiao also quickly walked toward Lin Ling. He looked at Lin Ling with a complicated expression, and then made an inviting gesture. Lin Ling nodded slightly and followed Teacher Xiao into the manor. However, he was full of disdain. Would he let him know if he was worthy or not? Sima Ruochen would know more clearly if he was worthy or not after meeting him. Lin Ling gave the light golden dragon a look and disappeared from the door. The light golden dragon's lips curled into a smile. He knew that something big was about to happen. Senior, who is he in the Dragon Clan? Why is he so powerful? Tisk Tsk, double talents and both mid-god divine fetuses. This is the first time I've heard of such a thing, let alone seen it. What's his name? I'm Chaijiao. I'd like to get to know him. The surrounding youths all walked over. They no longer had the look of schadenfreude from before. Instead, their faces were full of flattery. Get lost. However, the light golden dragon had to give them face just because they wanted to flatter him? To put it bluntly, they were indeed not worthy. After being scolded by the light golden dragon, those who came to flatter him were all shut out. Their expressions were awkward and ugly. At this moment, Lin Ling was calmly following behind Teacher Xiao. His eyes were also looking at the entire purging manor. Manor Lord, she is a disciple of the 10 orthodoxies. Moreover, his reputation is quite high among the disciples of the 10 orthodoxies. When you see him, you'd better be respectful. Teacher Xiao walked in front and suddenly said, Are you giving me pointers? Lin Ling looked at her and said leisurely, Damn it. Teacher Xiao cursed. For some reason, she felt that this Dragon Clan young master had a strange aura. It was as if he was not afraid of anything. The way he looked at everyone was also a kind of contempt. You've caught the Manor Lord's eye. Therefore, I have no right to give you advice. I'm just helping you, Teacher Xiao said. If that's the case, then thank you, Lin Ling replied lazily. To be honest, I also want to respect Manor Lord Shi. However, from the looks of it, he really doesn't deserve my respect. Perhaps, he'll be more respectful towards me. Lin Ling was speaking the truth. However, in Teacher Xiao's eyes, she felt that Lin Ling was being arrogant. After all, every talented prodigy would more or less look down on the experts of the older generation. Although this kind of character made her feel disdain, she did not dare to reprimand Lin Ling anymore. I know that whatever I say now is useless. However, after you've seen the Manor Lord's abilities, you won't dare to speak so arrogantly anymore. Now, let's go see the Manor Lord, Teacher Xiao said. You're right. After I see him, I won't speak so arrogantly anymore. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. His words made Teacher Xiao think that this Dragon Clan young master finally understood that there was always someone better than him. However, before she could say anything, Lin Ling continued, because I reckoned that at that time, I'll be even more arrogant than I am now. That bastard. Teacher Xiao stomped her foot angrily and did not say anything else. She knew that her kind reminder had gone in one ear and out of the other. We're here. Let's go in. Moments later, Teacher Xiao stopped in front of an elegant room and pointed at the door. Lin Ling's soul power quietly probed and found nothing out of the ordinary. He immediately pushed the door open and entered. From the looks of it, he didn't greet them or knock on the door. He directly pushed the door open and entered. He didn't look like he was here to learn martial arts. He looked more like he was here to cause trouble. I hope that Manor Lord Shi can suppress his spirit. Otherwise, when we meet in the manor in the future, it won't be easy for us to talk. Teacher Xiao stared at Lin Ling with her mouth agape. Then she sighed and turned to leave. Chapter 45-26. Manor Lord, if this is all you have on the surface, I think it's better for me to return home, because you can't give me any pointers. Yes. Without waiting for anything, Lin Ling spoke faintly. What a proud junior. On the bed, the middle-aged man slowly opened his eyes and smiled at Lin Ling originally. He wanted to give Lin Ling some pointers as a senior, but who knew that Lin Ling would directly put him in his place? However, this junior's talent was impressive, and even if he was arrogant, he could still tolerate it. You said that I can't give you any pointers? Then the middle-aged man spoke softly. Lin Ling nodded. He knew very well that if he could not lure out the real Sima Ruochen, then everything would be in vain. This Sima Ruochen hid very well, and even here, Lin Ling still could not find any clues. He could only wait for Sima Ruochen to come out himself. At present, you really can't give me any pointers. I thought that the Purging Manor was famous, but after meeting you today, the Manor Lord is just SOSO. Lin Ling's words were full of disdain. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was amused. He was just a junior of the martial ancestor realm. Although he had some talent, was he qualified to say such words? A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Forget it, I'll let you see my prowess. The middle-aged man smiled mysteriously and activated his divine energy, suppressing Lin Ling with a powerful aura. He wanted to let Lin Ling know his prowess. His cultivation was a late-stage lower god, and after his divine energy was activated, his aura surged. However, Lin Ling stood there quietly with a smile on his face, as if he was in a storm, but he was not afraid. With Lin Ling's divine energy in his 7 dantians, this little bit of power could not affect him at all. You have some skills. The middle-aged man was shocked, but he still maintained his calm demeanor and smiled indifferently. Skills, I do have some, but your skills are nothing much, Lin Ling replied. Hearing this, the middle-aged man started to feel displeased. This was the first time he had seen such a cocky brat. He activated his divine power, wanting to intimidate Lin Ling into kneeling and begging for mercy. However, there was still no effect. That ferocious divine power raged all around, but Lin Ling, who was at the center, was still as steady as Mount Tai. What's going on? The middle-aged man stared at Lin Ling in astonishment. He discovered that Lin Ling was acting like a big boss. This made him so angry that he almost vomited blood. What else do you have? Come on, I'm getting impatient. Lin Ling said lazily, causing the middle-aged man to grit his teeth. How could a mere martial ancestor not be afraid of his divine might? I'll show you how powerful I am. This time, the middle-aged man displayed his martial arts foundation. Billowing martial arts great Daos and mystiques surrounded Lin Ling like countless illusions. Is that enough? However, Lin Ling spoke again with an indifferent expression. Therefore, the martial arts mystiques were unable to affect Lin Ling's heart. What the hell? At this moment, the middle-aged man could not help but rise to his feet. He scanned the surroundings and discovered countless martial arts mystiques surrounding Lin Ling, while Lin Ling stood with one hand behind his back. Not only was he calm, he was also using his other hand to dig his nose. Are you out of your mind? Hee, I have the heavenly dragon protector with me. Your aura is unable to affect me. Sigh, the so-called villa master of the cleansing dust villa. Such an undeserved reputation. Lin Ling said while digging his nose. His expression and voice were filled with disdain. This. The villa master blurted out 3 words in a row. It was obvious that he was extremely shocked. Then he saw Lin Ling sigh and was about to leave. He immediately shouted, "Wait!" Because it was not easy to come across a divine fetus with 2 innate talents. How could he let him go? Most importantly, this dragon race fellow did not have a strong background. If he grafted his innate talents, his master's strength would definitely increase greatly. With such nourishment, how could he let him escape? What? Could it be that you still have some tricks up your sleeve? I'll say this first. If you only have this much ability, I'll have to pay a visit to other great teachers. Lin Ling stopped in his tracks. Hee kid, have you heard of the saying that the true face of Mount Lu cannot be seen? Only the body is fated to be in this mountain? The villa master suddenly smiled mysteriously and walked to the side of the bed step by step. His foot lightly stomped on the ground. Originally, I didn't want to let you see this so quickly. However, you've already passed my test. Therefore, you have the qualifications. Billowing smoke spread out from the ancient bed and turned into a huge whirlpool, swallowing the entire room. Lin Ling stood motionless, a smile on his face. He knew that he could finally see the real villa master. If you have the ability, follow me. The middle-aged man walked into the depths of the whirlpool, and Lin Ling of course followed. The huge whirlpool of smoke seemed to have no end. After walking like this for a full 3 incense sticks of time, a magnificent palace finally appeared in front of them. This palace floated above the clouds and was very mysterious. We're here. After seeing the palace, the middle-aged man's expression changed. Then he saw that Lin Ling was moved. He immediately thought that Lin Ling was shocked. In truth, he did not know that Lin Ling's expression had changed because he had finally found the villa master. Haha, a descendant of the dragon race with 2 divine fetus bodies. Truly extraordinary. At this time, another middle-aged man walked out from the palace. His appearance was different from the previous villa master. He looked younger and his long hair fell to his shoulders, giving him a more elegant feeling. In particular, there was an additional sword symbol between his eyebrows, which added a sense of majesty to his elegance. Greetings, master. The middle-aged man who brought Lin Ling in bowed respectfully. Then, his body shook and turned into a strand of hair, floating to the front of the palace. Are you surprised? The middle-aged man standing at the front of the palace stretched out his hand and took the strand of hair. Then, he looked at Lin Ling with an unfathomable expression. I know that you must be very surprised and have many questions in your heart. Then let me tell you, he is just a puppet clone of mine, and I am the real villa master. After taking back the strand of hair, the villa master spread out his hands and said with an indescribably domineering expression. Lin Ling's eyes flashed, but he still did not speak. Haha, you were so arrogant before. Why are you so restrained after seeing the real villa master? Or are you nervous and afraid of me? Seeing Lin Ling's silence, villa master Shi laughed again. His laughter contained endless carefreeness and boldness. Of course, I'll tell you another piece of news. I, Villa Master Shi, came from the age of the gods. In fact, I'm even more ancient than the 10 orthodoxies of today. In my eyes, they are actually bullshit. Isn't this news even more shocking to you? Chapter 45:27. Let me tell you the third piece of news. I'm not here to take you in as my disciple. Instead, I need your double dragon talent. Haha, 2 mid-god divine fetuses. TSK. That's enough for me to regain my former strength. So you must die. Manor Lord, she shouted again. Then he opened his arms and laughed at the sky. 2 god-level divine embryos were rare even in the era of the gods. For him to obtain such a lucky chance was something that would only happen once every 10 million years. Ha ha ha. Manor Lord Shi's voice echoed throughout the palace, as if he was laughing at the heavens. However, Manor Lord Shi suddenly felt that something was wrong. Lin Ling was too calm. Not only did he not run away, he did not even say a word. Manor Lord Shi looked at Lin Ling and frowned. Lin Ling was indeed very calm. Not only was he not panicking, but he was also smiling. Smiling? Could it be that he wasn't clear enough before? Or was this kid an idiot who did not understand what he meant? Manor Lord Shi was dumbfounded. He had come from the era of the gods, but it was his first time meeting such a strange person. Are you done laughing? At this moment Lin Ling finally spoke. Let me tell you something too, Sima Ruwachan. Sima Ruwachan. Manor Lord Shi's body trembled when he heard Lin Ling's voice. I'm here to kill you. The tyrannical song sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand. Murderous intent filled the air and powerful divine core gushed out. You're not a martial ancestor. Manor Lord Shi's heart trembled. This young man had hidden his cultivation. He could not see through him earlier. His brows furrowed, and his expression turned ugly. He thought that the young man would be shocked when he revealed his purpose. Who knew that the young man would be so calm? Instead, he was shocked by the young man's words. Kill me? You. Sima Ruwachan suppressed the shock in his heart, and was obviously angry. Tell me, who sent you to kill me? There is no one in this era who knows that I am Sima Ruwachan. You, whose order are you following? The Book of Xinyuan. Lin Ling didn't hide anything and spoke calmly. Treasure book. Treasure book? She's still not dead? Sima Ruwachan took 3 steps back. Obviously he was shocked again. Never had he imagined that there was actually someone who recognized the Xinyuan treasure book. She's not dead. She's here to kill me. After taking a few steps back, his legs trembled, and he fell to the ground in fright. It was as if he had encountered the worst nightmare of his life. It's time for you to pay back your debt. Lin Ling held his sword diagonally and walked towards Sima Ruwachan step by step. No, how could she not be dead? When Sima Ruwachan saw Lin Ling walking towards him, he crawled backward with a pale face. Thanks to you, she's still alive and well. As long as she brings your head back, she'll be even more at ease. Lin Ling's cold voice sounded, scaring Sima Ruwachan so much that his face turned ashen. Sure enough, the Xianyuan treasure book knew that he was still alive and would definitely come to kill him. In your dreams. Suddenly, Sima Ruwachan's face became ferocious. He clapped his hands and floated up. How can I, Sima Ruwachan, die here? That bitch is still alive. Why doesn't she die? She wants to kill me now. Dream on. Sima Ruwachan's entire body erupted with divine essence. He had the strength of a late-stage lower deity, and had reached the peak. He was only 1 step away from becoming a mid-stage lower deity. Countless swords floated out of his body like beams of light lingering around him. At this moment, he was no longer as flustered as before. He had regained his composure and dominance. Dragon brat, you dare to kill me on behalf of the Xianyuan treasure book? You're overestimating yourself. Let me tell you, the Xianyuan treasure book is going to kill you. Spiritual sword out of the night dust, 7 swords of purple cloud dye. He pointed his finger downwards, and 10,000 swords shot towards Lin Ling. In his opinion, a mere mid-stage lower deity dared to kill him. He was overestimating himself to the extreme. You shouldn't have come. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and entered the palace. His 10,000 swords suppressed a total of 100,000 divine powers. They would kill any god who stood in their way. 3rd stage. Looking at the swords shooting straight towards him, Lin Ling also let out a low cry. A gray robe appeared. The tyrannical hymn in his hand was also suddenly clenched, and a murderous aura gushed out. Although the third stage talent fusion only gave Lin Ling 40,000 divine powers. After his double dragon talent was upgraded, his physical strength had also increased greatly. Now he had 4 great mid-stage deity talents in his body. Although the Vajra Bodhi had not reached mid-stage, it was still a 9th grade lower deity talent. When combined with the Heavenly Dragon Protector's talent, its power had increased greatly. Rumble. Lin Ling slashed out with his sword. It was like a raging river, like a storm, and all the swords shooting towards him were sent flying. Swoosh. Even the cloud top was blown away by the wind, as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Whoosh. One of the swords was sent flying and shot towards Sima Ruachan, who had turned around and was moving forward. The latter's expression changed drastically. He took a step and dodged, but his cheek was still cut open by the sword, and blood was flowing out. This made him look at Lin Ling in shock, his eyes wide open. A mid-stage lower deity was so powerful? Take my sword, Sua Paku. Lin Ling's expression was cold. Without waiting for Sima Ruachan to speak, he slashed out with his sword again, and the blood sea roared. God steps! Sima Ruachan exclaimed. Chapter 45-28. Let's see how arrogant he can still be. This time, no one can save him. Lei Yuzhou rubbed his chin and said expectantly. Looking at the other teachers, they also thought so. However, Teacher Xiu frowned and said, "That's not right. If the villa master really wanted to teach that kid a lesson, why did he have to be in such a sorry state? He even asked the 2 elders to help him." This undoubtedly made Lei Yuzhou and the others a little confused. In their opinion, Lin Ling was just a junior in the martial progenitor realm. For the gods to attack him, it was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. Maybe the villa master wants to make an example out of him. Lei Yuzhou said uncertainly. Who cares? Anyway, the villa master is angry. That kid is dead for sure. The others did not think so much, and once again showed a mocking smile. However, was Lin Ling going to die for sure? The answer was obviously no. At this moment, Lin Ling looked at the 2 elders who were charging at him and slashed out fiercely. The blood sea roared. Bang! Bang! Then, 2 headless bodies fell to the ground, and the washing dust villa fell silent. Killing 2 gods with a single slash of the sword? Lei Yuzhou and Teacher Xiu's faces twitched a few times, and they could not say anything. All of their hopes were undoubtedly placed on the villa lord. Perhaps only the villa lord could suppress this tyrannical dragon clan brat. Sima Ruachan died. However, Lin Ling did not even look at the 2 elders who were killed. He pounced on Sima Ruachan. Split! Sima Ruachan was obviously panicking. He pulled out a big clump of hair and waved it in the wind. Suddenly, countless Sima Ruachan appeared. They were all lifelike, and their strength was at the late stage of the lower deity realm. However, their talent was very ordinary, and their combat strength was weaker than a real late-stage lower deity. Let's see how you fight. The countless clones spoke at the same time, and a fierce aura soared into the sky, attracting the attention of the whole city. You are really something, Lin Ling thought to himself. If the Xianyuan treasure book did not tell him how to kill Sima Ruachan, it would be difficult for him to kill Sima Ruachan in a short period of time. Next, Lin Ling threw the tyrant song sword away, and then made a complicated gesture with both hands. Ancient runes appeared in Lin Ling's hand, and finally, a green destroy character appeared on his palm. Lin Ling. It was as if a divine wind had blown past, and a mysterious power was being emitted. When those clones were illuminated by the light of the word destroy, they immediately twitched. Their faces distorted, and then they turned into ashes and disappeared. Seeing Lin Ling destroying his clones in one move, Sima Ruachan roared. It's that bitch, it must be that bitch. This clone technique of his was extremely extraordinary. Besides the Xianyuan clan's grand art of annihilation, others were utterly unable to break through it. So he was very clearly aware that for the sake of killing him, the Xianyuan treasure could be said to have expended a great deal of effort. It's time for you to die. Lin Ling charged at Sima Ruochen and slashed with his sword, but Sima Ruochen miserably dodged it. Even so, his jade crown was cut off and fell to the ground, scattering pearls all over the ground. Looking at his long robe again, it had been corroded by the sea of blood and had become tattered. Manor Lord he. Everyone stared at this scene and felt that their eyes were playing tricks on them. A disciple of an orthodoxy, the Manor Lord of the Cleansing Mountain Manor, was beaten to such a state. No wonder he said that even the Manor Lord is not qualified. Teacher Xiao and the rest were shocked. At this moment, they finally felt that Lin Ling was qualified to say such words. No wonder Lin Ling was so arrogant in front of them. He was qualified to be arrogant. Especially when they thought of how the teachers mocked Lin Ling. They were so ashamed that they wanted to crawl into a hole. Save me, save me. Sima Ruochen's face was filled with panic as he kept shouting at the people on the ground. However, even he was not a match for Lin Ling. So how could the others dare to step forward? In their eyes, this was a battle between gods. How could mortals be qualified to interfere? Whoosh! Lin Ling's speed exploded as he cut off Sima Ruochen's arm. Then the cold sword fell on Sima Ruochen's neck. Late-stage lower gods were no longer Lin Ling's match, unless they had powerful talents and god steps. Stop! However, this battle had already attracted the attention of many orthodoxies, because it had been a long time since such an intense battle in the breakout Holy Land. As soon as the voice fell, a few figures floated in the sky. Looking into the distance, a large number of strong cultivators were rushing over. Orthodoxy, it's the orthodoxy. Looking at those gods, the entire manor was in an uproar. The 10 orthodoxies, the strongest gods of the breakout Holy Land. Usually, they could only hear about them but not see them in person. Today they could finally see them. Such elegance. Everyone's hearts were beating violently as their eyes were filled with awe and admiration. Of course, the orthodoxies ignored the crowd and looked at Lin Ling instead. One of the old men said coldly, "Let go of my disciple." This person was obviously the master of the orthodoxy above Sima Ruochen. Although his strength was also at the level of a late-stage lower god, it was obvious that he was more than twice as powerful as Sima Ruochen. This difference of one time seemed simple, but in fact for many gods, it was something that they could never surpass in their lifetime. This was also the reason why Sima Ruochen wanted to become a disciple of an orthodoxy. He said let him go. Lin Ling smiled faintly as he looked at the orthodoxies and said, "You are not from the Dragon Clan. Who are you? Let me give you a piece of advice. Let him go immediately, and we will let you go." Another orthodoxy spoke. This person was a middle-aged man wearing an immortal robe and looked very dignified. "Let me go. What a joke. If I want to leave, no one in the broken Holy Land can stop me." Lin Ling shook his head disdainfully. Then, he pulled the sword in his hand and Sima Ruochen's head was cut off. Sima Ruochen's lower body fell to the ground while his head was caught by Lin Ling. Lin Ling looked at Sima Ruochen, who died with his eyes wide open and said, "Come out and walk. You will pay for this sooner or later." As soon as he finished speaking, he put the head away. The eyes above Sima Ruochen's head finally closed slowly. He obviously did not expect that after hiding for a lifetime, he would still be found. And the moment he was found was the moment his life ended. However, what made him unwilling to die was the identity of the person who killed him. "You killed him." Seeing Lin Ling cut off Sima Ruochen's head so cleanly, all the orthodoxies were shocked. The people below the villa were also scared out of their wits. This was because this young man dared to be so arrogant in front of the master of the orthodoxy. Who the hell was he? Who gave him the courage? Chapter 45-29. Lei Gong Lin Ling. His voice was like a formless wind, drifting to the ground and the sky, causing the entire broken Holy Land to fall silent. Everyone in the broken Holy Land knew this name. In fact, there were only a handful of people in the entire void who did not know this name. This person was not only one of the 4 great gods of the 9 continents void, but he was also the youngest god in the void. Among the gods, his strength was not to be underestimated. He's Lei Gong. Countless people looked at Lin Ling in the sky in shock. Lei Gong, he's Lei Gong. Lei Yuzhou's legs gave way, and he fell to the ground with a thud. Young Master Rong's face was also pale. Back then on the street, he had competed with that young man for the immortal robe. However, that young man was Lei Gong Lin Ling. This meant that even if his grandfather was here, he was not qualified to compete with that young man. Lei Gong, I didn't expect you to come to my broken Holy Land. In the distance, Xian Wuba finally arrived, blocking Lin Ling's escape route with a ferocious look on his face. I didn't expect you to be Lei Gong Lin Ling. The surrounding orthodoxies also took a step forward, and their eyes continued to flicker. Many of them were meeting Lei Gong Lin Ling for the first time. Back at the sacred mountain, they had only heard of his name. I heard that you stole the stone tablet of the will of the world. Is that true? A white-haired old man squinted his eyes and said. He was the orthodoxy at the Broken Holy Land convention. Obviously, he did not expect that the young man who had messed up the convention was Lei Gong. Hand over the stone tablet. Another man from the desolate prime orthodoxy said coldly. If you don't hand over the stone tablet today, you won't be able to leave the Broken Holy Land. The other orthodoxies also spoke one after another. Initially, they did not plan to make a move. However, after knowing that the young man was Lei Gong, they knew that they had no choice but to do so. At the same time, powerful orthodoxies also arrived from afar and surrounded Lin Ling. It could be said that all 10 orthodoxies had gathered. The orthodoxies and Sir Xian Wuba are both going to attack Lei Gong. This scene also shocked many people. Lei Gong Lin Ling was able to force so many orthodoxies to attack at the same time. This alone was enough to make Lei Gong Lin Ling awe-inspiring. If I were to say that the steel isn't in my hands, and that I didn't obtain anything from it, would you believe me? Facing the encirclement of the orthodoxies, Lin Ling smiled faintly. He knew very well that he was no match for these orthodoxies. After all, there were too many of them. However, if he wanted to escape unscathed, Lin Ling had some confidence. Moreover, now that Lin Ling had gotten Sima Ruochen's approval, he was obviously more open. What do you think? Lin Ling's words clearly could not be trusted by the orthodoxies. Watching one person go against all the orthodoxies, everyone under the ground trembled. Lei Gong Lin Ling was really heroic. Especially the people from Purging Dust Villa. They were in disbelief. Not long ago, this famous person in the void was right next to them, and even spoke to some of them. To be honest, the fact that they had spoken a few words with the Thunder God was already a great blessing for them. If you want to escape, you'll have to ask me first. Seeing Lin Ling move, Xian Wuba sneered. In fact, he had been waiting for Lin Ling to escape. Boom! His body exploded with a terrifying amount of divine energy, forming an unparalleled pressure that suppressed the entire cataclysm Holy Land. In the endless clouds, a huge palm grabbed Lin Ling, as if it wanted to capture Lin Ling alive. Bang bang bang! Waves of terrifying divine energy vibrated, causing everyone on the ground to fall to the ground. They witnessed the power of the cataclysm Holy Land with their own eyes. However, at this moment, a sword came slashing. Rumble! The sea of blood was churning, and above the sea of blood, there was a blue-robed young man with a large sword in his hand. He charged forward in an awe-inspiring manner. Whoosh! Under that sword strike, all the smoke and clouds that were blocking the path ahead were sliced apart. Ah! Chapter 45-30. You! After a painful cry, Xian Wuba's burly figure appeared in the sky. However, he was clenching his fists with a look of disbelief. What? Behind them, the gods of the orthodoxies who had been pursuing Lin Ling were also shocked. One slash to injure Xian Wuba? This result was far beyond their imagination. In their minds, although Lei Gong Linling was strong, he was only a mid-tier god. Xian Wuba, on the other hand, was a god from the age of Pantheon. How could a rising star like Linling hurt him? Xian Wuba returned from the Jier Ox cave with serious injuries. It's normal for Lei Gong to take advantage of him. Everyone attack. We must capture him, or our cataclysm holy land will lose its dignity. Suddenly, an old man's voice was heard. It was the voice of Maha-Orthodoxy. Among the 10 orthodoxies, this person was the most senior and the strongest. At some point in time, he might even be the leader of the 10 orthodoxies. Maha appear. Then, the old man roared at the sky and turned into a huge giant. However, this giant's fangs were shining. His green hair was dancing wildly, and his entire body was covered with fiery red skin. He didn't look like a human, but more like a demon. The Maha bloodline was the bloodline of a war god from the age of Pantheon. During the age of Pantheon, it was famous for its tyrannical strength. Heaven and earth shifting hands, karmic connection. After the orthodoxies went all out, the orthodoxy closest to Linling also attacked. He was from the desolate prime orthodoxy. His talent was not outstanding, but his divine energy was incomparably terrifying. One attack was more than 150,000. After he attacked, countless palms appeared in the sky, blooming like flowers. It was a dazzling sight. These palms were formed from karmic energy, and were the most difficult to destroy. Karmic energy was also the most mysterious. Some said that it represented fate. Others said that it represented reincarnation. There were many different opinions, but without a doubt, being able to use karmic energy to cultivate was a testament to one's strength. The 10 orthodoxies are indeed strong. Linling's eyes flashed. He knew that time was of the essence, and he could not afford to be entangled in this battle. Sky-splitting slash. Without hiding anything else, Linling transformed into Pangu and lightly chopped down with his palm. You're courting death. The other orthodoxies could not help but mock Linling when they saw him using such a weak attack. Although they had already given Linling a very high evaluation, they still didn't think that Linling could go head-to-head with a real orthodoxy. Watch me break your hand and take away your karma. The man from the desolate prime orthodoxy snorted coldly. He controlled the karmic hand that filled the sky and grabbed at Linling. However, at this time, an ancient power bloomed in the sky. Under the countless gazes, Linling was like a god of creation. His robe fluttered in the wind as he gently chopped down with his palm. Rumble. This palm contained the power of 10 million worlds. It was as if it could cut through all eternity. Bang bang bang. Everywhere it passed, it was like tofu meeting a knife. The karmic palms that were the most difficult to destroy all melted and turned into nothingness. The desolate prime orthodoxy sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the first time he had encountered such a strange thing since he started cultivating. What kind of divine martial art is this? Even Xian Wuba was shocked. This was because although it looked like a simple chop, it seemed to contain the power of the Tao. It could destroy everything. It gave him the illusion that an ancient giant beast was splitting the world apart. Rumble. In fact, Linling's chop was indeed splitting the world apart. When it passed through the sky and landed on the ground, it actually split the holy ground into two. The entire holy ground shook, as if the end of the world had arrived. Is this the battle of the gods? Countless people were shocked. Their eyes were filled with admiration and respect. If not for the fact that they were not the core of the battle of the gods, they would have been implicated and killed. Whoosh! After using sky-splitting slash, Linling also rushed into the distance at full speed. When they looked at Xian Wuba and the other orthodoxies, they were all dumbfounded. So strong? One person escaped from the hands of all the orthodoxies. This was just too crazy. After him, we have to catch him no matter what. Otherwise, the holy ground of the holy ground will lose face. However, Maha-Orthodoxy was the first to react. He let out a low roar. Lei Gong Linling, one of the 4 gods of the 9 continents void. If he could enter and leave the holy ground of the 9 continents freely, the holy ground of the 9 continents would be laughed at for thousands of years. Therefore, this was no longer a personal grudge. It was a battle for the dignity of the 2 great voids. The orthodoxies understood this. Therefore, they went all out and chased after him. Lei Gong Lin Ling. Watching the battle of the gods gradually disappear before their eyes, the people in the cleansing mountain villa were very upset. This was especially true for teacher Xiao. Her eyes were filled with excitement and regret. She was excited because she had finally seen the god she worshipped the most, Lei Gong. That kind of strength, that kind of elegance, did not lose to Lei Gong's reputation at all. As for her regret, it was because Lei Gong had appeared before her not long ago, and even said a few words to her. However, what she left behind for Lei Gong was a kind of contempt and mockery from the bottom of her heart. None of you are worthy. She remembered what Lei Gong Lin Ling said. Now, she felt that they were indeed not worthy. We missed it, we all missed it. Of course, compared to the dyed red on his face, what made him angry was the humiliation in his heart. He was actually slapped in the face by a rising star. However, Lin Ling did not follow up with another attack. After his successful attack, he increased his speed, passed by Maha-Orthodoxy, and rushed into the distance. To Maha-Orthodoxy's surprise, Lin Ling followed the main road. He did not rush toward the exit, but instead rushed into the depths. This made him think that Lin Ling was scared out of his wits, so he panicked and did not know where to go. Maha-Orthodoxy. At this moment, a large number of figures rushed out of the city. It was Immortal Wuba and the other orthodoxies. Of course, there were also many experts rushing over from afar. They looked like they were here to help, but they were actually here to watch the battle between the gods. After all, with their strength, they were not qualified to participate in the battle between the gods. Orthodoxy you. However, when the crowd saw the state of Maha-Orthodoxy, they were all shocked. That was because Maha-Orthodoxy, who was wearing a white robe and had white hair draped over his shoulders, was now bleeding from his nose and teeth. His elegant white robe was stained with a few teeth, and his nose was obviously bruised, like a garlic head. Could it be? Many people had their guesses. Could it be that Lei Gong Lin Ling punched Maha-Orthodoxy? However, Maha-Orthodoxy was the strongest among the 10 orthodoxies. Even he was punched, this was too fake. Stop talking nonsense, go after Lei Gong. Maha-Orthodoxy was already fuming with anger, and immediately changed the topic. Where did he run to? Damn it, I thought Maha-Orthodoxy would stop him, and he wouldn't be able to escape even if he grew wings. But he still escaped. Xian Wuba looked around, and then said angrily. He didn't leave the broken holy land, he panicked and ran inside. Maha-Orthodoxy immediately said. Inside. Everyone was stunned, and then they burst into laughter. Because as long as Lin Ling did not escape from the broken holy land, it would be impossible for him to escape. This guy is obviously scared out of his wits, he ran inside. This is not the broken holy land's territory. It's either the immortal spirit nation or the 10 orthodoxies. Ha ha ha, he's really an idiot. Exactly. Let's not rush, we'll catch him slowly. Remember to seal the entire broken holy land. Don't let him get away with it. The orthodoxies relaxed and laughed. Maha-Orthodoxy also seemed to have regained his dignity, and could not help but laugh. However, his laugh was very funny, and a few of his teeth were missing. He immediately covered his mouth and said, I guess it's his first time in the broken holy land, and he's not familiar with the place. So he panicked and ran around randomly. He should be hiding in the immortal spirit nation. Maha-Orthodoxy. Where else can he run to other than the immortal spirit nation? Don't tell me he's running to the primogenitor's sacrificial ground. Dao Bai Yuntong's face was full of smiles, and then he added. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the entire ancient avenue became inexplicably silent. The primogenitor's forbidden ground. That's right, Lei Gong Lin Ling could very well have escaped there. If he destroyed the primogenitor's forbidden ground, they would be sinners for eternity, because the primogenitor's forbidden ground was like an ancestor to the broken holy land. If they could not even protect the ancestor, who would not laugh at them, they would also become the laughing stock of the void. Quick, go after him. Maha-Orthodoxy was stunned for a moment, but he did not care about his missing teeth, and roared. The others could no longer remain calm, and they were so angry that their teeth were itching. They all chased along the avenue, praying that damned Lei Gong would not go to the primogenitor's forbidden ground. Unfortunately, the effect of praying was very weak, and could even be said to be ineffective. That was because two huge statues gradually appeared in front of them, and below the statues was a young man wearing a blue and white immortal robe. He had his hands behind his back, and he was looking at them with a smile. Who else could it be other than Lin Ling? I knew it. Everyone's faces turned pale. They were most afraid that Lin Ling would destroy the primogenitor statues and fight to the death. Despicable brat. The orthodoxies cursed under their breaths. They thought that Lei Gong Lin Ling was a duck that was already in their mouths. But who knew that this duck would be so difficult to deal with and would actually give them a loss? Chapter 45-32. Hee, if you dare to do anything, don't blame me for destroying these two stone statues. Hee. Lin Ling Yin chuckled. What seemed like a casual statement was like a needle that pierced into everyone's heart and made them feel as if their hearts were being cut by a knife. How dare you? The orthodoxies were enraged, and their killing intent was obvious. Xian Wuba took a step forward. If Lin Ling dared to lay a finger on the primogenitor statue of the immortal spirit Hegemon nation, Xian Wuba and Lei Gong would be irreconcilable. Lei Gong Lin Ling, do you really want to fight to the death? Maha Orthodoxy said coldly. How about this? The Cataclysm Holy Land will let you leave, but you must not destroy the primogenitor statue. Hee, do you think I'm stupid? As soon as I leave this place, all of you will swarm me. Lin Ling was not going to fall for it. How cunning. In fact, that was exactly what the orthodoxies were thinking. Do you really want to drag this out? Let me tell you, the more time you spend here, the more dangerous your void of the 9 prefectures will be. Nobody knows what kind of powerful enemies will attack your void of the 9 prefectures. For example, the chief of the Ox Demon clan in the Ear Ox Cave, the divine overlord of the U continent, and so on. That's right, this is our territory. We can afford to drag this out. The orthodoxies suddenly spoke again, their faces filled with cold sneers. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He could not deny that these old foxes were very thoughtful. He could not afford to drag this out forever. Moreover, he could sense that these orthodoxies were watching him closely. As soon as he showed the slightest weakness, they would swarm him and not give Lin Ling the slightest chance to fight back. This meant that Lin Ling had to be alert at all times to fight against these old monsters. Haha, how can the Dragon Valley miss out on such a lively scene? However, at this moment, in the sky far away, countless ancient dragon deities roared and howled. Their auras were enormous. The dragon tribe. When the orthodoxies turned their heads to look, their expressions instantly turned ugly. Originally, they had the upper hand in the negotiation with Lin Ling, but who knew that the dragon clan would interfere? As a result, Lin Ling had more bargaining chips, and they could not easily touch Lin Ling. Rumble. In the skies above, millions of dragon gods were tumbling about. They were faintly discernible and beautiful. Among them, there was a gigantic dragon with the longest dragon whiskers. Its eyes were fixed on the ground. Then, with a tremble of its body, it transformed into an old man and walked down slowly. He was the dragon god of the Dragon Valley. Lei Gong Lin Ling. The dragon god looked at Lin Ling as he walked down. Lin Ling nodded at him, telling him that he had accomplished his goal. Dragon god, are you really going to interfere in this matter? As long as one side surrendered first, they would definitely be attacked with all their might by the other side. Alright. If this continues, we don't know how long it'll take. It'll only benefit the spirit nation. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. Lin Ling, who had been silent all this time, slowly spoke up. Lei Gong Lin Ling, are you planning to surrender? Hearing Lin Ling's words, the orthodoxies could not help but laugh. What kind of joke is this? Surrender to a bunch of old monsters like you? You might as well just kill me. I just think that our negotiations can go another way. Lin Ling said disdainfully. He turned around and looked at the giant stone statue behind him. If I have a way to awaken your progenitor, I wonder if you'll let me leave as a reward. Impossible. As soon as Lin Ling finished speaking, the orthodoxies roared. The progenitor stone statue had been here for 30 million years. It was so long that it could be traced back to the end of the era of the gods. However, it was not that the broken territory had not tried to awaken the progenitor, but in the end, it was to no avail. At some point, they even thought that the progenitor was dead. Now, a rising star was boasting that he had a way to awaken the progenitor. What bullshit! Even if this rising star was from the era of the gods, they would not believe it. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that I can't. It's just awakening a statue. How difficult do you think it is? Lin Ling said again. Nonsense. You're boasting shamelessly. Do you know why the primogenitor became a statue? It's not difficult. You're good at bragging. The Maha Orthodoxy said disdainfully. Chapter 45-33. What? How did you know? When Lin Ling finished speaking, the orthodoxies were stunned. My world is not something you can understand. Perhaps I am even older than all of you. Lin Ling looked up at the sky and said calmly. His words silenced the orthodoxies. As if this was the first time they had met Lei Gong Lin Ling. Could it be that Lin Ling was also a god from the age of Pantheon? You're misleading the public with your lies. Suddenly Xian Wuba shouted. I have checked Lin Ling. He is not from the age of Pantheon, but from a small realm called the Rainforest Sacred Land. My friends, I think he is just trying to buy time. Don't fall for it. You're indeed trying to mislead the masses with your lies. The orthodoxies suddenly realized that they no longer believed in Lin Ling. Lin Ling was still not afraid. He said, how about this? If I can awaken your primogenitor, this matter will end here. If I fail, I will tell you the whereabouts of the world will stone tablet. What do you think? Are you serious? Maha Orthodoxy's eyes lit up. Brother Maha, he is full of tricks. Don't fall for it. In my opinion, we should fight it out with him and see who comes out on top. Taoist Xian Wuba, Maha Orthodoxy said. I know you hate Lei Gong for killing millions of gods, but don't forget our mission. The will of the world is more important. Maha Orthodoxy looked at Xian Wuba and said, Taoist Xian Wuba, I know you hate Lei Gong to the bone. But Xian Wuba wanted to say something, but Maha Orthodoxy stopped him. Even the ancient gods from the Chaos realm were curious about the host of the seventh world will, let alone these orthodoxies. Therefore, if they had the chance to know this secret, they would not lose out. Even if Lin Ling succeeded, they would be the ones benefiting from it. When the primogenitor woke up, he might even help them kill Lin Ling. Therefore, no matter which choice they made, they would not lose out. Of course it's true. At this moment Lin Ling nodded. All right, I promise you. Maha Orthodoxy nodded as well. However, the orthodoxies behind him didn't think the same way. None of them agreed. The way they saw it, Lin Ling just wanted to take the opportunity to escape, so they should kill him on the spot. However, Maha Orthodoxy had already agreed, so they could only endure it for the time being. Oh right, don't disturb me when I'm communicating with your progenitor. Otherwise, don't blame me if your progenitor doesn't wake up. At this time, Lin Ling said calmly. He's speaking as if it's true. This brat is too good at pretending. Upon hearing Lin Ling's words, the orthodoxies were even more displeased. As for Maha Orthodoxy, in order to obtain the will of the world he endured it. He nodded and said, as long as you don't destroy the statue, we won't stop you. It's impossible to destroy the statue, but it's unavoidable to destroy a small part of it. Do you agree? Lin Ling asked again. All right. Beside them, Xian Wuba was gloating, mocking Maha Orthodoxy for trusting Lin Ling. Maha Orthodoxy's eyes twitched when he heard that. He suddenly felt that he was a little foolish. The reason he agreed to Lin Ling's request was not only because they wouldn't be at a disadvantage, but he also had other intentions. He was hoping that Lin Ling would be able to awaken the progenitor. After all, Lin Ling knew that the progenitor cultivated the pure water sky grand art. One had to know that only their orthodoxies in the Cataclysm Divine Land knew about this grand art. However, it seemed like Lin Ling was just a blind cat that caught a dead mouse. Enough. Seeing that Lin Ling had started to pull out the bracelet on the progenitor's statue, Maha-orthodoxy could no longer hold it in. As soon as he spoke, the orthodoxies no longer held back. All of them unleashed their aura, ready to fight to the death. Crack, crack, crack. At that moment, the progenitor's statue seemed to have touched some taboo. Its head began to move, and its mouth slowly opened, revealing a cave that was as tall as a person. Moreover, it was emitting a blue light. This was something that had never happened to the statue in thousands of years. At that moment, all the orthodoxies who were filled with murderous aura stopped moving. Xian Wuba, dragon god, and the others were shocked. Could it be that the kid had succeeded? Chapter 45-34. Alright, I'm going to wake up your primogenita now. Wait for me. Lin Ling took a step forward and shot towards the cave. At the same time, he used his divine vitality to form a complicated seal before disappearing into the cave. The Sky River deity had told Lin Ling all of this while he was in prison. Of course, Lin Ling was not so kind as to help the broken Holy Land awaken their primogenitor for free. He was after the pure heavenly spiritual comet fluid in the statue. He's gone in. To prevent him from pulling any tricks, let's go in and take a look. Seeing Lin Ling disappear, the orthodoxies immediately turned to Maha-orthodoxy. Maha-orthodoxy nodded. He did not want things to get out of hand, so he immediately led the group towards the cave. Splash! However, just as they got close to the cave, a terrifying surge of water from the heavenly river rushed towards them. The orthodoxies were thrown off their feet. They could not withstand the force at all. It's the power of the primogenitor. After the orthodoxies crashed onto the ground, they all looked up in horror. Why can that kid go in but we can't? Maha-orthodoxy immediately asked after recovering from his shock. This time, everyone was puzzled. According to Lin Ling's age, he should be a local deity in the void of the 9 continents. He should not know much about the secrets of the Age of Pantheon. But why did he have a way to enter but they, as the descendants of the primogenitor, could not? That kid is a little strange. Maha-orthodoxy could not understand, and could only say so. Everyone nodded in agreement. Unfortunately, they did not know that Lin Ling did not know the heavenly water pure maiden. But he knew her father. At this moment, Lin Ling was walking along the cave. To his surprise, he discovered that after entering the stone sculpture, he seemed to have arrived at a world of water. Moreover, this water was extremely extraordinary. It was sparkling and translucent as it flowed, carrying with it a divine charm. There's an endless amount of divine power hidden in the water. Although Lin Ling didn't feel any pressure, he knew that this was only because he knew the method to enter. If it was anyone else, then they would have been suppressed to death by the endless divine power. From the looks of it, this white water pure maiden must be very powerful. She must be a mid-level god. Lin Ling muttered to himself. The difference between a mid-god and a low god was like heaven and earth. No matter how talented or powerful a low god was, a low god would never be a match for a mid-god. Some of the more powerful low gods could at most survive a mid-god's attack by luck. Crash! As he moved forward, Lin Ling felt that there was water flowing under his feet, like a small stream. He walked on the stream, and rumbling sounds began to appear in front of him, as if there were many waterfalls in front of him. This made Lin Ling speed up a little.